Immortal Cultivation begins with gaining a superhuman constitution. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Ganoderma Lucidum. Fan Chengji never understood until his death how such a seemingly youthful young man could possess such strength. It reminded him of the figure who had appeared on the Jianghu decades before, a disciple of the Immortal sect, equally young and equally powerful. Before he could fully grasp the truth, he was completely lost in the darkness. Upon seeing Fan Chengji's death, Su Poman flicked his left hand and flung the golden ring blade away. Woo woo woo, as if weeping for its master, the golden ring blade spun several times in the air before falling heavily to the floor, piercing the ground at an angle. Wan Qing hid in a corner, his face paling with fear, his lips trembling. What the hell is this monster? He ducked back, fearing Su Poman's attention. Guan Shanhe put away his fists and walked over, a hint of unease on his face. He asked in a strange tone, "Brother Su, are you strong enough now to easily kill a late-stage 6th grade warrior?" Su Poman thought for a moment, then slowly said, "If a 6th grade warrior is this strong, then they definitely can't beat me." Guan Shanhe was stunned, then a complex expression crossed his face. He hadn't expected his current strength to be inferior to this young man who had just joined the gang. Tang Li was so frightened that he almost pissed himself. His originally flushed skin turned pale and blue. Looking at Fan Chengji's deadly appearance, he couldn't help but swallow, and he hated him to death. This guy, who attacked others without knowing their strength, was really killing them. Tang Li coughed lightly, a smile plastered across his face. He walked over, bowed deeply, and said respectfully, "Young Master Su, I was reckless earlier and shouldn't have interfered in your feud. I beg you to be magnanimous and let me go. I'm willing to give you 2 counties as compensation. If you have any other conditions, please feel free to ask." His tone was extremely humble, completely lacking the demeanor of a domineering gang leader. Su Poman frowned at the small cloth bags hanging from Tang Li's body, and said calmly, "It's not impossible to let you go. I heard you come from a medicinal herb family. Do you have any aged herbs? If you can satisfy me, I can let you go." Guan Shanhe heard this and was unable to speak. He stood aside and watched quietly. Upon hearing Su Poman's request, Tang Li's face lit up with a look of relief. He hurriedly said, "There's a 500-year-old Ganoderma lucidum in our tribute box. We were originally going to offer it to the giant whale gang in exchange for cultivation resources. Since young Master Su needs it, I'll give it to you." Then, Tang Li called out to Wan Qing, who was hiding behind the crowd, "Kinger, why don't you go get that Ganoderma lucidum for young Master Su, huh?" "Hey, foster father, I'll get it right away." Wan Qing hurried out, rummaging through boxes and drawers before retrieving a copper box with a mechanical lock. Tang Li pulled a copper key from his bosom, inserted it into the mechanism, and gently twisted it. With a click, the lock opened. He opened the copper box, revealing a jade box carved from high-quality jade. Through the translucent jade box, he could see a jet-black Ganoderma lucidum lying within. Against the backdrop of the jade, it seemed to emit a faint white glow. It looks quite good." Su Poman grabbed it, opened the jade box, and gently touched the Ganoderma lucidum with his fingers. Suddenly, a ding sound echoed in his mind. Ding, energy detected. Convert to energy points. The crowd was so crowded, Su Poman didn't convert it, but gently closed the jade box. "It seems the herbs I tried before were too young. This aged herb still has some energy," Su Poman thought to himself, a smile on his face. He said to Tang Li, "I'm very satisfied with this herb. I'll spare you this time, but you can't go back on your promise to give me the land. And if you need this kind of herb again, please contact me. I can buy it with silver, help you deal with your enemies, or exchange it for something I have. It's your choice." Yes, Tang will keep his promise. Although this kind of elixir is extremely rare, our herbalists occasionally find it in dangerous places. "If I find it, I will personally deliver it to you, young man," Tang Li said hoarsely, a smile on his face. "Well, if that's the case, then you can go. Brother Guan, the Wujiang gang is leaderless now. You can seize their tribute and then take over their territory when you return." Su Poman heard the commotion, turned his head, glanced at the 2 Wujiang gang elders who were about to flee at the doorway, and shouted coldly, "Surrender now, and I'll spare your lives." Where else can two 7th-rank warriors escape to? The two Wujiangang elders' legs trembled at the words, and they collapsed to the ground. Indeed, the leader of a 6th-rank warrior had been killed with a single sword strike. Where else could these two 7th-rank warriors escape to? Simply waiting for the Haegang to recruit them was the best option. They were both elderly, with children and grandchildren at home, and it was impossible for them to flee to the ends of the earth. They knelt facing Su Poman and Guan Shanhei, seemingly resigned to their fate. As they knelt, the Wujiangang members who had followed them also knelt. "Brother Guan, I'm a little tired. I'm going to rest now. I'll leave the rest to you," Su Poman said with a smile, sheathing his sword. Guan Shanhei's thoughts were still a little confused, but having held a high position for many years, he quickly calmed down and nodded vigorously, saying, "Brother Su, you rest now. I'll take care of the rest." Su Poman, sword slung over his shoulder, ascended the second floor step by step. Everyone watched in silence. Su Poman didn't care what happened downstairs. He trusted Guan Shanhei to handle it properly. Returning to his room, he first took out a copper box. After confirming that no one was around, he opened it again and placed his finger on the Ganoderma lucidum. Ding, energy detected. Convert to energy points. Yes, conversion completed. You have earned 2 energy points. The Ganoderma lucidum instantly turned to ash. Su Poman's face was full of smiles. He was overjoyed to have discovered a new way to obtain energy points, as it meant he could draw on his abilities again. He coveted Superman's abilities. Closing the copper box and placing it beside the bed, Su Poman lay down on the bed, thinking about the matter of the purple source roulette in his mind, and slowly fell asleep. The next morning, when Su Poman got up, he found that the disciples and several hall masters of the Wujiangang had changed their factions and became members of the Haegang under the coercion of the two elders. As for those disobedient disciples, they were thrown into the wilderness to feed the wolves last night. The road of the martial arts world is so cruel. And those who are stubborn will not live long. After Su Poman went downstairs, he found that everyone looked at him with awe, and even Guan Shanhei's tone when talking to him had changed, and became a little polite. Su Poman, as usual, rode his black-scaled horse in the front. The Viper Gang, which was originally in the front, followed the Haegang from a distance and set off again. When Guan Shanhei saw Su Poman at this time, he couldn't help but think of the legend in the martial arts world decades ago. "I wrote a little more over the weekend and added more. I hope everyone will vote and support me. There will be at least 2 updates after it is put on the shelves." Chapter 27, City. Rumor has it that decades ago, Pu State produced a true martial arts prodigy. In his 20s, he challenged the 5 major sects, crushing their leaders with overwhelming force. Later, he encountered an envoy of immortality in another kingdom and was inducted into the immortal sect to cultivate his skills. During that period, Pu State's martial arts flourished. Many lurking masters flocked to that kingdom in search of immortality, but none ever returned, leading to the loss of many martial arts secrets. Guan Shanhei saw a reflection of that person in Su Poman, feeling both moved and grateful. If he had befriended such a figure, wouldn't he have the opportunity to meet immortals in the future? He possessed such prowess at only 19, and his previous displays weren't necessarily indicative of his full potential. If he were to travel to that kingdom, perhaps he would be chosen by the envoy of immortality and offered the opportunity to enter the realm of immortal cultivation. With this in mind, Guan Shanhei didn't remain in the carriage to enjoy the cool breeze. Instead, he mounted his black-scaled horse and rode alongside Su Poman. They chatted casually, without getting too excited. He knew that if he wanted to strengthen their relationship, rushing things would be counterproductive. It would appear too forced and unpleasant. The journey for the next 2 days was uneventful, with no unexpected incidents. That evening, the city came into view, and Su Poman was awestruck by the vastness of the city. Its height seemed hundreds of meters, its towering towers reaching into the sky. The walls were constructed of a type of bluestone, their mottled marks conveying a heavy sense of age. The gates were constantly bustling with carriages, though fortunately, there were 3 gates, large enough to accommodate dozens of carriages abreast. The closer they got to the walls, the more insignificant they felt. The young disciples, newly arrived, were awed by the imposing structure, and the previously boisterous procession quieted down. Even Su Poman, a seasoned veteran, felt a sense of unprecedented emotion upon first encountering this vast, desolate city steeped in history. The mottled traces seemed to bear witness to its past. The giant whale gang's disciples occupied a separate city gate, allowing only tribute-bearing convoys to enter. After Guan Shanhei handed over a token denoting his status, a White Tiger Hall steward ushered him into the White Tiger Hall established in the outer city. Despite the numerous vehicles and horses, everything flowed smoothly under the coordination of the giant whale gang's disciples and stewards. The tributes were first registered and stored in a warehouse, and then a dedicated steward arranged accommodations for the members. The next day, the giant whale gang's induction selection would take place, and that was when the elite disciples would be put to use. The giant whale gang provided Su Poman and Guan Shanhei with private courtyards, while the lower-level disciples slept in a large courtyard that could accommodate dozens of people. Dinner was also lavish, and the gang leaders, elders, and directors were all invited to a banquet in the large garden. When members of the same sect gathered, they were generally old acquaintances, known from their earlier contributions, and thus enjoyed a pleasant chat and drinks together. A steward from the giant whale gang would greet the guests at the buffet, while warriors above the 6th rank would not appear until the next day. After a few simple pleasantries, the steward, surnamed Duan, offered a toast to the group and then retreated to the inner hall. Disciples and stewards handled all other arrangements, unconcerned about the subordinate gangs causing trouble within the giant whale gang. Because this was the giant whale gang, the consequences of causing trouble were severe. Once, an arrogant individual, believing himself a 5th-rank warrior, disregarded others and wreaked havoc. He was severely injured by an inner hall elder, his cultivation destroyed, and his fate was horrific. After this incident, no matter how great the grudge, it would not be resolved within the giant whale gang. Brother Guan, this young man looks a little unfamiliar. Why don't you introduce him to us? A hunchbacked middle-aged man took a bite of his food and pointed at Su Poman. Guan Shanhei chuckled, patted Su Poman on the back with one hand, and raised his wine glass with the other hand and said with a smile, "This is Brother Su, the deputy leader of my He gang. I will recommend him to the giant whale gang tomorrow." Huh? Brother Guan actually found a genius, and he's at the level of a deputy leader. Doesn't that mean he's a 6th-grade warrior? An old woman with eyebrows over her shoulders said in surprise. Is he really a 6th-rank warrior? So young. No more than 22 or 23, right? Incredible. Such martial arts talent is rare even in a sect as powerful as the giant whale gang. Brother Guan is incredibly lucky. After successfully recommending someone tomorrow, he'll surely receive many rewards from the giant whale gang. Congratulations, Brother Guan. This young man has an extraordinary bearing. He's no ordinary man, a dragon among men, a dragon among men. I, Masi, would like to offer you a glass of wine. It's quite a bit of a climb, but I hope Brother Su doesn't mind. The atmosphere at the table suddenly heated up, and several people familiar with Guan Shanhei toasted Su Poman. Su Poman, without boasting about his talent, responded with a smile, and everyone praised his extraordinary demeanor. After a few rounds of drinking, Su Poman excused himself from the table, citing his limited alcohol tolerance. Returning to his small courtyard, he spread his arms, but found no one to undress him. He suddenly missed Kair and Rosie's attentive care. I should get those 2 girls over when I have time. I'm having trouble adapting to being without someone to take care of me all of a sudden, Su Poman muttered to himself. He looked out the window at the enormous, eerie moon, his expression a bit dazed. Sleep, get over all that nonsense. The only downside to this world is the lack of electronic gadgets. Shaking his head, Su Poman undressed and climbed into bed. Outside, the night breeze rustled the branches, swaying the moon's shadow on the ground. A silent night followed. The next day, the outer city became even more bustling with activity during the giant whale gang's induction ceremony. The participants weren't limited to the giant whale gang's affiliated gangs. The children of high-ranking officials and wealthy merchants from the prefecture also signed up, along with children from impoverished families. Early in the morning, Su Poman could hear the bustling sounds of people in the distance, as if he lived right next to a market. After washing up, he dressed, shouldered his sword, and left his room. He glanced over at Guan Shanhei's courtyard, his gaze piercing the wall to see him still sound asleep. Seeing the strawberry marks on his neck, he suddenly understood. The gang had other activities after dinner. Oh. Regret. If only I had known I wouldn't leave. Su Poman really hadn't left for the young lady on the pleasure boat in the city, but mainly because he loved boating. Su Poman left the courtyard alone, intending to wander around the White Tiger Hall. At that moment, The White Tiger Hall occupied a large portion of the outer city, adjacent to the Flying Eagle Hall. Tables and chairs were set up at the entrance to the outer city area, surrounded by a large group of young people signing up for the tryouts. Most of them came from smaller towns surrounding the city, hoping to join the giant whale gang. Further back were 10 rings, each 20 meters long and wide, surrounded by ropes as thick as an arm. The newly registered candidates had already begun competing, and many were quickly eliminated. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28, First Class Mortal Country. Of course, a few young men with exceptional martial arts talent would emerge and be admitted to the White Tiger Hall as candidate disciples. Young man, are you here to sign up for the selection, too? Just then, a young boy patted his shoulder and said with a smile, his expression visibly excited. Su Poman shook his head. I'm just here to watch the fun. Seeing you with that sword on your back, I thought you were going to the martial arts competition. Hey, I just passed the initial examination and received my White Tiger Hall candidate disciple token. I'm so happy, the young boy exclaimed, seemingly overjoyed, unable to resist sharing the good news with a stranger. Haha, congratulations, little brother. You'll have to work hard to become a candidate disciple. I heard that if you don't become a warrior within a year, you'll be expelled. Su Poman smiled. The young man nodded emphatically, saying seriously, yes, I will. I will practice hard and not get eliminated. Boss Su, what brings you here? The selection for the subordinate gang's disciples has begun at the Ascene Academy. Brother Guan just went by and didn't see you, so I was hoping to find you. I didn't expect you to come here. Are you here to pick up some slack for the Hey Gang? A hunchbacked middle-aged man greeted Su Poman warmly. Su Poman looked over and saw it was one of the gang leaders he'd been drinking with yesterday. He smiled and nodded, Brother Zhang, so I heard it was bustling over here, so I came out to check it out. Oh, no, I was mistaken. I'm here to find some disciples from my Bamboo Pulse gang. There are a lot of young people here. Those youngsters the giant whale gang doesn't like are actually quite capable disciples for a small gang like ours. Since you're free, why don't you go to the Ascene Academy? Brother Guan must be waiting for you, Zhang Nian reminded him. Okay, Brother Zhang, I'll go over there first. Su Poman clasped his fists and headed off down another path. He's actually a gang leader, the young boy was astonished, his heart aching. He stared blankly at the receding figure, sword carrying. He looks only a year or two older than me. He's so impressive. Su Poman, carrying his token, passed through numerous checkpoints unimpeded. At an intersection, he spotted Guan Shanhei, peering around. Brother Guan, I'm here, Su Poman waved. Guan Shanhei looked back, breathed a sigh of relief, and walked over with a smile. It's all my fault for drinking too much last night. I almost missed something important. Guan Shanhei patted his head, a smile tinged with regret. Come on, come with me to the Ascene courtyard. The Lixuan sect disciples are taking tests right now. After they're finished, they'll come to our Hey Gang. I'll recommend you to the elders in the inner hall to join the giant whale gang after the tests are over. When the two arrived at the Ascene courtyard, a group of white-robed disciples were lining up to take the test. At the front of the line stood an inky stone tablet. Each disciple took turns punching it, and someone would then record the light emanating from the tablet's surface. Is this a stone tablet for measuring strength? It looks a bit magical. Su Poman stared at the light that occasionally shone from the stone tablet with some confusion, as if he had suddenly entered a fantasy world from the world of martial arts. Guan Shanhei, noticing the expression on Su Poman's face, smiled faintly and explained. This is a magical instrument purchased by the giant whale gang from another country. It can test strength levels. Look at the horizontal lines on the stone tablet, each representing a new realm. Disciples who reach the first horizontal line have excellent physical fitness and can generally enter the realm of the master within a year. As for those who can't even reach the first horizontal line, they will be eliminated. It is said that countries are divided into different levels, and our Pu kingdom is resource poor and belongs to the lowest level of the first-class mortal country. Testing instruments like this can only be purchased in the Nanayu kingdom, first-class mortal country. Su Poman was stunned. He had never expected that his own Pu kingdom would be a lowly country. How much more prosperous and powerful must the higher-level countries be? Brother Guan, could it be that countries above the first level produce even more powerful warriors? Su Poman continued. A more powerful warrior. Guan Shanhe shook his head and said slowly, the first grade realm is already the limit of martial arts. After that, one needs to join an immortal sect to learn how to continue cultivation. I've heard that those high-level countries are rich in resources and have immortal sects. Not only do martial arts flourish, but every once in a while, envoys of ascension travel the mortal world, selecting young geniuses with outstanding talents to join their sects. In our Pu kingdom, cultivating to the 3rd grade is already extremely difficult, let alone reaching the 1st grade. It's been decades since a warrior has reached the 1st grade, immortal envoys? In a country like that, anyone with sufficient talent has the opportunity to cultivate immortal arts. Su Po's eyes gleamed with brilliance. He had thought that stories of immortals in this world were just legends, but he had never expected that immortal cultivators existed outside of Pu kingdom. Thinking back to the turtle swallowing moonlight on the sea when he first crossed over, he was even more convinced. This place was definitely not just a martial arts world, there must be a higher level power system. So, our Pu kingdom is nothing more than a place in a well. Then, Brother Guan, why don't you venture out to a higher realm? Su Poman asked again. Guan Shanhe looked somewhat helpless inside. Alice, no one wants to be confined to a well, but to leave Pu kingdom, one must have the strength to cross the Great Kang Plain. Many exotic beasts roam the Great Kang Plain, and even legendary demonic beasts exist in its depths. Ordinary warriors simply cannot cross there, and there's a 99% chance they'll be devoured by the beasts along the way. Only those who have reached the 2nd rank of warrior can attempt to cross the Great Kang Plain in a group. These force measuring stones were brought back from the Nanayu kingdom by the grand elders of the giant whale gang. This is related to an incident that happened decades ago. At this point, Guan Shanhe shook his head helplessly. As for the specifics, I don't know. After all, I'm just hearsay, so don't believe everything. Su Poman nodded. He had a hunch that if they wanted to obtain energy points, they would most likely have to start from higher realms. Lixun sect has selected 42 preparatory disciples, 49 peripheral disciples, and 3 elite disciples, all rated C+. They will receive C+ resources, including 10 blood coagulation pills, a Zhuan grade lower level martial art, and a Wang grade upper level technique. Just then, the Lixun sect's disciples completed their tests and were evaluated by the deacon at the memorial office. The sect's head, a plump, pale old man, beamed with joy upon hearing the evaluation. Congratulations, Master Bao. You've received a C+ rating and received so many cultivation resources. Upon returning, your Lixun sect will reach even greater heights. An elderly woman nearby smiled and bowed, her eyes filled with envy. Bao Zuanfeng returned the greeting with a hearty laugh. Not at all. This is pure luck. I found such a talented group. Brother Bao, you have a keen eye for talent. Guan Shanhe's face showed no trace of envy. He calmly observed the crowd that gathered to congratulate him, feeling somewhat tedious. He couldn't help but look back at Su Poman, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. With such a powerful weapon, the rating of A is stable. It's the end of the month, brothers, vote if you still have votes. Reserve the monthly tickets for July. If there are more monthly tickets, I will add more chapters. Thank you everyone. Chapter 29 Testing. Beside the stone tablet, a steward shouted, "Hey again candidates, come forward and take the test." Guan Shanhe signaled to a blue-clad steward from the He gang, who immediately led the red-clad disciples of the He gang forward one by one to take the test. Following closely behind were the 50 blue-clad disciples who had already entered the rank, and then the Wujiang gang disciples who had been recruited along the way. These disciples were also counted among the He gang disciples and participated in the evaluation of their reward levels. Hiss, why did the He gang send so many disciples? Aren't they afraid of damaging their foundation? They're probably trying to get a better reward to break through. I heard that the lower level B evaluation comes with a small Huandian, which increases the chances of breaking through to the 5th level. If your cultivation isn't up to par, the elixir can only increase your foundation, not your realm. Sending so many elite disciples to participate in the selection, I think the He gang's development for the next 10 years will be severely affected, but the clothes of those disciples at the back are a bit strange, not unlike He gang attire. Those unaware of the situation were discussing in hushed tones, while the only members of the Viper gang who knew about the situation were conducting the test in another hall. Guan Shanhe didn't bother to explain, his gaze shifting to the testing platform. The first red-clothed youth stepped forward nervously. The deacon said coldly, "Strike this stone tablet with all your strength. If you've learned any martial arts, show them off." The red-clothed youth nodded, took a step forward, and lunged forward, smashing a fist into the black stone tablet. Pah! The punch seemed to strike mud, its force completely absorbed by the stone tablet. Then, a glow began to emanate from it. The light climbed upward along an irregular line, then suddenly extinguished before reaching the first horizontal line. Your strength fails the test. Do you know any martial arts? No. Next one, don't waste time. If you don't have any martial arts to demonstrate, get out, the deacon roared, making sure the disciples behind him could hear. Failed. Next one, failed. Basic wave fist. Good. Stand to the right and wait. Next one, failed. Only 28 of the 300 red-clothed disciples passed. The remaining 200 or so were ruthlessly eliminated, a pass rate far lower than that of the Lixun sectas for the blue-clothed disciples. They were already at the entry-level realm and, after the test, became peripheral disciples of the giant whale gang. At the end were the disciples formerly of the Five Rivers gang, whose pass rate was similar to that of the He gang. Perhaps because most of the young men had not yet mastered martial arts, the testing was extremely efficient. After the test, the steward brought the results to the table. The deacon in charge of the assessment glanced at Guan Shanhe with a hint of surprise, a hint of admiration in his eyes. He read aloud, He gang, 55 selected preparatory disciples, 100 selected peripheral disciples, and 8 selected elite disciples, rated B intermediate, will receive B intermediate resources, 1 mid-grade Zhuan level technique, 1 top-grade Zhuan level martial art, 5 Xiao Huandan pills, 50 Ningzhu Dan pills, 3 low-grade Zhuan level martial arts, and 6 top-grade Wang level techniques. These techniques can be exchanged for cultivation resources of equal value. Guan Shanhe was delighted to hear the rewards. No other gang in the White Tiger Hall had ever received such high rewards in all those years. The thought of the benefits these cultivation resources would yield upon his return filled him with a surge of excitement. However, the true excitement was yet to come. Guan Shanhe stepped forward, received the plaque inscribed with B intermediate, and once again bowed deeply toward the inner hall. Disciple Guan Shanhe wishes to recommend a peerless talent to the White Tiger Hall of the Giant Whale Gang. He channeled his internal energy to reinforce these words, his voice like rumbling thunder, echoing directly into the inner hall, causing those nearby to feel a slight pain in their ears. The Giant Whale Gang steward, a 6th-rank warrior at the altar, looked surprised. It seems his skills are on the verge of a breakthrough. He could reach the 5th rank in 2 or 3 years. Now with this small rejuvenating pill as a reward, reaching the 5th rank is just around the corner. I hadn't paid much attention to this He gang before, but I didn't expect such a talent to emerge. After paying his respects, Guan Shanhe pounded a large white drum at the inner hall's entrance. Dong, the drum sound echoed directly into the hall, and soon, a gust of wind blew through the corridor. Of those present, only Su Poman could clearly see the person entering the inner hall, an old man wearing a tall crown, his face thin and ancient, with a strange and ancient appearance. Whoosh! A gentle breeze blew, and everyone's eyes flashed as the figure of the old man appeared beside the altar. Greetings, Elder Wei, the deacon at the altar hurriedly bowed. Greetings, Elder, the other Giant Whale Gang disciples followed suit. This was a Giant Whale Gang elder, a 4th-rank warrior, a top-tier expert who held sway over the region. It's a rare opportunity for me to come out of seclusion, and I happened to hear someone recommend someone with a drum, so I came to take a look. Little one, who are you recommending? Don't let me down, Wei Wuji said, his eyes gleaming with electricity, staring at Guan Shanhe. Guan Shanhe felt the pressure coming from the old man before him, and cold sweat streamed down his forehead. Disciple, I dare not. He hadn't expected a 4th-rank warrior to be so powerful. The mere pressure was enough to make him feel overwhelmed. Guan Shanhe's face froze. He turned and pointed at Su Poman, confidently saying, he's the one I want to recommend. He just turned 20 this year, and his strength has already surpassed that of a 6th-rank warrior. 20 years old, and above the 6th rank. Wei Wuji turned his gaze to Su Poman, examining him carefully. What's his name, Su Poman? Su Poman replied with a smile as he stepped forward. Su Poman, huh? Come here. I have a keystone that can test the strength of your internal energy. If it's as this little fellow claims, I will personally accept you as my disciple." As he spoke, Wei Wuji pulled out a grayish-white stone with purple veins and a slight wear on its surface. Su Poman approached, his tone full of respect for the elder. "Senior, what should I do?" "Stretch out your hand." Wei Wuji's eyes lit up with curiosity. He felt Su Poman's aura and the gurgling qi and blood flowing through him, and his heart moved. Wei Wuji grabbed Su Poman's outstretched right hand, then gently tapped the stone, placing it in his palm. Su Poman felt the internal energy flowing through his body as if drawn, surging from his dantian and flowing towards his right palm. The purple lines on the keystone slowly illuminated. 1 dot, 2 dots, that's wrong. How can it only be the internal energy strength of an 8th grade warrior? Wei Wuji frowned, staring at the 2 star-like lights on the keystone. I sense that his qi and blood are very strong, but how can it only be the internal energy level of an 8th grade warrior? Little fellow, are you trying to deceive my giant whale gang? What? An 8th grade warrior? Guan Shanhei's eyes widened. Elder Wei, are you mistaken? Am I mistaken? Come and see for yourself. The keystone only has 2 stars, Wei Wuji said coldly. Warmly celebrating the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China. Chapter 30A1. Everyone present murmured. What's going on with the He gang? They dared to recommend an 8th rank martial artist. Aren't they just teasing us, the giant whale gang? They're in big trouble now. How dare gang leader Guan tease the elders? He's truly fearless. What a shame for the previous B-level intermediate reward. Now, even the reward for damaging our foundation will be lost. Elder Wei will definitely be furious. Impossible. Guan Shanhei rubbed his eyes and looked at Su Poman. Brother Su, what's going on? Your strength? Su Poman was also somewhat frustrated. His strength was indeed unrelated to his internal energy. 99% of the reason was his formidable physical body. His internal energy cultivation was only at the level of an 8th rank martial artist, and he had only just achieved this breakthrough 2 days ago. Despite the crowd's doubts and Guan Shanhei's confusion, Su Poman maintained a smile, extending a hand and performing a very elegant Wing Chun opening hand move. Since Wei Changleo wishes to test my strength, you can give it a try. My true strength has little to do with internal energy, Su Poman said seriously. Guan Shanhei anxiously shouted, Brother Su, don't be impulsive. This elder is a top-tier martial arts master of the 4th rank. 1 strike would kill you, haha, little one, that's quite interesting. Since you're so courageous, I'll be gentle. Wei Wuji twisted his body, his robes fluttering in the wind as he thrust a palm towards Su Poman. A cocky palm shadow, composed of internal energy, flew out of his hand and flew towards him. Internal energy leaving the body to strike? A 4th rank martial artist is truly formidable, someone exclaimed in surprise. Guan Shanhei stared at Su Poman nervously, worried he wouldn't be able to withstand this terrifying blow. Su Poman smiled faintly and launched a punch forward, smashing into the incoming cocky palm shadow. Boom! The palm shadow dissipated into thin air as everyone stared in amazement. Huh? Wei Wuji's eyes flashed with curiosity. He'd carefully controlled the force of this palm strike, making it impossible for an ordinary person to withstand it. You actually took it. Guan Shanhei's face lit up with joy, his heart reassured. Even with that palm strike just now, he hadn't been sure he could withstand it so easily. Su Poman's action simply proved his strength far surpassing that of an 8th grade warrior. Elder Wei, you can use a little more force. I can handle it, Su Poman beckoned. Wei Wuji's interest piqued, and he laughed heartily. Good boy, then I'll test your mettle. With that, he soared into the air like a great bird spreading its wings. His internal energy radiated outward, forming a circular shield of energy, and he swung his hand down. Could this be the legendary palm technique that descends from the sky? Su Poman paused for a moment, then unleashed his fists diagonally upwards in a move reminiscent of the bull demon's horns technique. As the massive palm strike descended, Su Poman felt a surge of force, though it wasn't as powerful as his own physical strength. With a slight push, he thrust his fists forward, shattering the palm strike. In mid-air, Wei Wuji, observing this, was filled with astonishment. He had already exerted nearly 40% to 50% of his power in this attack, a move that would have repelled even a 5th rank warrior, yet Su Poman had once again broken his form. For a moment, Wei Wuji's face paled, and he began to take it seriously. Boy, I don't believe you can withstand this move from me, Another palm strike descended from the air, this time even more solid and powerful, its force multiplied several times over. Su Poman felt a slight resistance, a sensation of muscle fibers being compressed. His muscles ignited, his heart racing. He bent his arm slightly and thrust upward once more, unleashing a terrifying surge of power. Whoosh! The heavy palm shadow, frozen in midair for a moment, was shattered by the iron fists. The internal energy within it raged like a storm's eye, sending a powerful gust of wind through the area, sending tables, chairs, and other debris flying. He actually took it again. Elder Wei's internal energy cultivation is truly formidable, but how could this happen? This young man is truly incredible. Anyone who can withstand Wei Changleo's full-strength attack must be at the level of a 4th-grade warrior, right? The numerous deacons and disciples present were stunned. Wei Wuji himself was also stunned. He gathered his internal energy, his eyes gleaming with a divine light. Young friend Su, have you reached the realm of a 4th-grade warrior? He summoned a deacon and whispered a few words to him. The deacon then hurried away using his Qinggong technique. Su Poman smiled and nodded, a gesture of acknowledgement that startled everyone present. Such a young 4th-rank warrior is nothing short of a freak. Wasn't Fu Qingfang only this strong at his age decades ago? Come to think of it, Master Fu has been cultivating within the immortal sect for decades now. His strength must surely exceed that of a 1st-rank warrior. This Su Poman is so young yet possesses such strength. I wonder which sect trained him. After receiving this affirmation, Wei Wuji's gaze intensified as he spoke excitedly. Young friend Su, given your strength, I'm afraid I'm not worthy of accepting you as my disciple. I've sent someone to notify the leader. I'll let him make the final decision on this matter. Su Poman nodded, but inwardly he was reassessing his own strength against a 4th-rank warrior before him. Although Su Poman hadn't used his full strength in the previous battle, he had already mobilized a good portion of it. His current maximum strength was greater than that of a 4th-rank warrior, but not as strong as that of a 3rd-rank warrior. However, in a life-or-death duel, Su Poman believed that even a 3rd-rank warrior without a powerful weapon would struggle to injure him. Because his strongest attribute was defense, followed by speed and strength, Su Poman felt that even if he stood still and allowed Elder Wei to attack at will, he wouldn't be able to break through his defense and would only waste his energy in vain. Everyone in the arena stared at Su Poman with astonishment, and the chatter subsided considerably. Guan Shanhei's eyebrows raised high, his majestic body straight, a heart filled with immense joy. The deacon at the altar table approached Wei Wuji and whispered a few words. Then Wei Wuji picked up the wolf hairbrush and changed the Heigang's intermediate B-rank reward to A level. The rewards included were enough to make even the top martial artists in the martial arts world jealous. If the Heigang accepted this reward, several true masters would emerge from the gang in the next few years. As the leader of the gang, Guan Shanhei received a reward from his superiors, granting him the qualification to practice the giant whale gang's Fushiguang, along with a vast amount of training resources. This reward made his future limitless, and he was elevated to a branch leader of the giant whale gang, allowing him to mobilize many of the gang's personnel to help him develop the Heigang. At the same time, the Heigang also became a recognized direct subordinate of the giant whale gang, with a higher status than the Lixun gang and the Viper gang, becoming the first faction under the giant whale gang and possessing enormous development potential. Chapter 31 provides an explanation about the Xian roulette and answers some questions. First, the purple source roulette requires a minimum of 10 energy points to use, but can be more, meaning you can draw for 20 energy points, or 50, 80, and so on. The more energy points you have, the stronger the ability you draw, or the greater the degree of enhancement. Second, drawing a new ability doesn't enhance it, but drawing the same ability will enhance the existing ability. For example, Superman's physique is constantly improving. Third, some abilities are derived from Superman's physique and are not considered new abilities. These abilities, such as super hearing and supervision, naturally emerge when Superman's physique is strengthened to a certain level. They are not considered new abilities when drawn. All abilities currently available are based on Superman's physique. Therefore, each draw currently draws fragments of Superman's physique. Each additional fragment completes Superman's physique a little bit, and eventually, when it reaches 100%, the protagonist will gain all of Superman's abilities. In summary, the current draws are fragments of Superman's physique. In the process of completing the Kryptonian bloodline, many abilities derived from Superman's physique will evolve. These abilities are not drawn, but rather evolve automatically when the physique reaches a certain level. Anyone who's seen Superman knows that Clark didn't initially develop supervision or flight. He didn't develop them until he was in elementary school, when he was so scared he hid in a storage room. He only developed flight after retrieving the clothes his father gave him in the Arctic, years after that. That's it. Chapter 32 Garden. Young friend Sue, there are so many people here. Why don't you come with me to the inner hall for a chat? Wei Wuji invited enthusiastically. In his eyes, Su Poman was a talent worthy of investment and wooing. At such a young age, he possessed the strength of a fourth-grade cultivator. With a few more years of cultivation, he would surely reach the rank of a major sect leader. At that point, the younger generation of the giant whale gang would crush the other four major sects. Thinking further ahead, in a few decades, the giant whale gang was very likely to produce a grandmaster-level figure. While he might not see that day, he still had descendants within the gang to look after, so it was crucial to win over such a young prodigy now. The layout of the inner hall was distinct from the outer hall, featuring a more refined and elegant aesthetic. There were rockery and flowing water, clear ponds and lush bamboo. Masterpieces by renowned Pu-state painters hung on the walls of the long corridors, and the pavilions and terraces added a sense of ethereal beauty. It felt like an exquisite garden hidden within the outer city, with a breathtaking view at every step. Su Poman was also shocked when he entered the inner hall. He had never expected that such a unique landscape garden could be found hidden within the outer city of this prefectural capital. Its exquisite layout was truly amazing. As if sensing Su Poman's appreciation for the garden, Wei Wuji said with a hint of pride, "This garden took a lot of thought from me. I spent a lot of money to hire the most famous landscape architect in Pu-state. It took him 3 years and consumed a lot of manpower and material resources to build it. It's truly one of a kind in Pu-state. If you like, you can move in later. There are several vacant courtyards here, and no one will bother you on weekdays. Not bad, not bad. The layout of this inner hall, Master Wei, is truly extraordinary and unique," Su Poman praised generously, unable to move any further, somewhat reluctant to leave. Seeing Su Poman pause, Old Wei didn't urge him. He stood by and admired the scenery with him. From time to time, he would slowly describe the layout of a certain scenic spot. Su Poman nodded frequently, and his admiration for this garden became even stronger. After crossing a stone bridge, several houses appeared in front of them. They were arranged in a square shape and neatly arranged on the edge of a lake. In the innermost stood a 3-story wooden building. Several deacons of the giant whale gang stood at the door. Before the two of them could enter the inner hall and sit down, they heard the sound of wind behind them. Su Poman turned around and saw a middle-aged man with gray hair, walking on water with a superb light skill. Behind him were 2 cold-faced old men with unusually long arms. He had a square face, a dignified look, a gleam in his eyes, and wore an exquisitely crafted aqua blue robe, with an extraordinary demeanor. "My dear Su, our leader Long has come here in person. It seems that he thinks highly of you." Wei Wuji stroked his long beard and smiled, bowing slightly to the visitor. "Greetings, gang leader Long, and your left and right protectors." The sound of the wind died down, and Long Keiji landed lightly in front of the 2 men with a genial smile on his face. He said, "Mr. Wei, there's no need to be polite. This young man is the martial arts prodigy you mentioned in the message." "Yes. Gang leader Long, he blocked my full strength attack just now. His strength is at least at the 4th level of martial arts. His talent is comparable to Fu Qingfeng back then," Wei Wuji said excitedly. "If our giant whale gang cultivates a grandmaster, our giant whale gang will be the leader among the 5 major sects. By then, the giant whale gang will be able to obtain more resources." After hearing this, Long Keiji thought for a moment and then shifted his gaze to Su Poman. "Little brother, I am Long Keiji, the leader of the giant whale gang. Come at me with all your strength and let me see what level your skills have reached." "Okay, gang leader Long, be careful, I'm very strong," Su Poman reminded seriously, and then began to accumulate strength. Su Poman's internal energy, now at the 8th level, circulated throughout his body, energizing his ki and blood. Stimulated by this energy and blood, his muscles erupted with even greater strength. The internal energy amplified his right fist, and he crouched and thrust forward with a powerful, sinking horse punch. Long Keiji, one hand behind his back, swung his left palm, releasing a surge of powerful internal energy, colliding with Su Poman's right fist. Under the powerful internal energy of the 3rd level, The internal energy in Su Poman's fist was dispersed the moment it made contact, and the immense force directly impacted his flesh. Long Keiji felt as if he had struck a piece of forged steel, his power blocked, seemingly completely blocked. He raised his brows and glanced at Su Poman in surprise. Then, with a sudden impulse, he activated the giant whale gang's signature martial art, the Blue Wave Divine Art, instantly multiplying the strength of his internal energy. The moment their fists and palms met, a tsunami-like force erupted. Boom! Su Poman took a few steps back, steadied himself, and clasped his fists, saying, "Boss Long is truly formidable. I admire you." A third-grade warrior's strength surpassed that of a fourth-grade warrior by several times. With his current strength, he couldn't yet contend with a third-grade warrior, but it would be extremely difficult for a third-grade warrior to injure him. The two elders with unusually long arms also showed surprise in their eyes, but their expressions remained as cold as ice, as if they were unwilling to communicate with anyone else. "Haha, young man, you're quite capable. Your strength rivals that of a late-stage fourth-grade warrior. I'm truly astonished. I wonder who your master is." Long Keiji, hands clasped behind his back and a proud smile on his face, approached and spoke affably. Su Poman smiled and said, "Boss Long, you are too kind. I don't know the master's name. After I came down the mountain, the master left, saying that he was traveling to another country." Traveling to another country? Could he be a grandmaster of the first level? Long Keiji was even more surprised. Then he said with a look of enlightenment, "That's right, only a grandmaster can train a young hero like this little brother. I don't know if the master is a grandmaster. Anyway, the master is also very strong. When I think about it now, I still find him unfathomable," Su Poman said, pretending to have a trace of reminiscence on his face. Wei Wuji on the side exclaimed in admiration, "That must be a martial arts genius who is as elusive as a dragon. Indeed, this little brother is extraordinary. I, Long, am willing to treat him as an elder. I was originally thinking of asking a supreme elder of my giant whale gang to be your teacher. Since you already have a teacher, there is no need to do this. I wonder if you are willing," Long Keiji said with a smile. Su Poman nodded, bowed, and replied with a smile, "Thank you, gang leader Long, for your kindness. I'm deeply honored to become an elder of the giant whale gang." "Ha ha ha, great, great. Our giant whale gang has gained another pillar. From now on, you will be the youngest elder of our giant whale gang, and will also serve as the head of the Azure Dragon Hall. Come with me to the headquarters to receive your official appointment," Long Keiji said with a hearty laugh. Even though he was usually very majestic, he couldn't help but lose his composure at this moment. As the leader of the gang, he could think of more things. Such a peerless talent must be entrusted with important tasks. He must work hard to win over the gang and gradually strengthen his sense of belonging. Only then can he truly become the foundation of the giant whale gang. More updates will be added tomorrow, the weekend. Thank you for your support. Thanks to Captain Monster Catcher, Lanchin Yu Meng, Final Fantasy, Yunshin Buzichu Jinling, Book Friend 201812260510419115, Book Friend 202106301810373323, Book Friend 2018023202037340, Wei Shuyuyu. I haven't thought of a name yet, I'll think of one first and wait for the reward from fellow Taoists. Chapter 33 Lingine Peak. Qinglong Hall Master, Wei Wuji couldn't help but exclaim. "Gang Master, you're handing over the giant whale gang's most elite forces to Elder Su." Long Keiji smiled but said nothing, simply looking off into the distance. Su Poman was also somewhat surprised. He didn't know much about the Qinglong Hall, but he could guess a few things from Elder Wei's expression. Upon hearing the appointment of the Qinglong Hall Master, the two guardians also showed a look of surprise. They looked at Su Poman deeply, their previously icy expressions softening slightly. The Qinglong Hall was a branch of the giant whale gang directly under the leader. Its members were the most gifted young men from across Pu country. Each of them possessed remarkable martial arts talent and outstanding abilities, with the lowest cultivation reaching the 6th rank. They were elites capable of standing on their own in any field, and they were the giant whale gang's true core disciples, destined to compete with the younger generation of the other four major sects. This hall, located on Kyonho Peak, the headquarters, focuses on cultivation. Annually, it undergoes an extremely brutal trial, rumored to have a frighteningly high mortality rate. Only those who survive the trial are eligible to remain in the Qinglong Hall and enjoy the most superior training resources. Every 4 years, the 5-sex martial competition is a chance for Qinglong Hall disciples to showcase their prowess. The higher the ranking, the better the rewards. Furthermore, since most of the elders of the Giant Whale Gang have been promoted from within the Qinglong Hall, the Qinglong Hall holds a special status within the gang. It represents not only the elite but also a complex network of connections. Therefore, the position of Qinglong Hall Master carries immense weight, even surpassing that of an ordinary elder in some respects. As one of the 5 major sects within the Pu Kingdom, the Giant Whale Gang lacks the heritage of the other 4, primarily due to its mere 500 years of existence. The other 4 sects boast over a millennium of tradition, witnessing the rise and fall of numerous dynasties and weathering numerous periods of war and chaos, accumulating a profound heritage over these long years. The Giant Whale Gang was founded 500 years ago by Grandmaster Wang Jing. Immediately after its founding, it became one of the 5 great sects. The primary reason for this was that its leader, Wang Jing, was a supreme grandmaster who dominated the martial arts world at the time. His extraordinary strength enabled him to vanquish all enemies, and he also mastered the sect's signature martial art, the Bibo divine art. Secondly, it was due to the gang's daring and fighting spirit, with the disciples of the Azure Dragon Hall being the most exceptional. Their exceptional killing abilities intimidated even the disciples of the demonic sect at the time. The 12 Azure Dragons who accompanied Wang Jing were each feared killers. Su Poman sensed from Wei Wuji's tone that the position of Azure Dragon Hall leader was distinct from that of other sects. Although puzzled, he didn't immediately inquire. He followed Long Keiji and his 2 guardians through a secret passage beneath the lake, heading towards the headquarters within the inner city. This secret passage lay hidden beneath a pavilion in the center of the lake. It was paved entirely with flowery white stone slabs, and fireworks lit up on either side, emitting a strange aroma reminiscent of sea fish. During the journey, Long Keiji briefly explained the situation at the Azure Dragon Hall, assuring him that he would have a capable deputy hall master to assist him and that he need not worry about his cultivation progress being disrupted. The secret passage's exit lay within a rockery. This was already the inner city. Beyond the area occupied by the city lord's mansion, over half of the remaining area was occupied by the Giant Whale Gang's headquarters, a vast expanse encompassing the Kaionghua, Lingayan, and Mengchen peaks, all of which rose to between 300 and 400 meters. The main peak, Lingayan Peak, was the most majestic, boasting a variety of buildings. If it were on Blue Star, its scale would resemble a national forest park. Wang Jing had chosen Dengfang Prefecture for his headquarters because of its size. This former imperial city, vastly larger than other prefectures, offered convenient transportation and was centrally located at a major transportation hub, making it ideal for the Giant Whale Gang's various trade activities. This time, Long Keiji did not use his Qinglong skills. Instead, he took Su Poman for a stroll on Lingayan Peak, climbing up a steep stone staircase, and introduced him to the various buildings in the headquarters along the way. Over there is the law enforcement hall of our gang. Elder Mo Yunfeng lives in the courtyard next to the law enforcement hall all year round. He is the law enforcement elder of our Giant Whale Gang. Elder Su, do you see the white pavilion over there? That is the Wanggayan Pavilion. It was built by the founding Grandmaster Wang Jingwang for his wife. It is more than 500 years ago. Over there is the martial arts pavilion of the Giant Whale Gang. It contains various martial arts techniques. As for the earth-level techniques and skills of our Giant Whale Gang, you have to go to the transmission hall to find Elder Xiong to get them. Elder Su can go to get our Giant Whale Gang's earth-level technique, Fu Shui Guang, and some martial arts to practice. As for the sex martial art, Bi Bo Shengguang, Elder Su needs to make certain contributions before he can redeem it. Long Keiji patiently explained to Su Poman one by one. This scene seemed a little unreal to the patrolling disciples. Is that gang leader Long climbing the mountain with a young man? Oh my god, look, gang leader Long is actually laughing? Incredible, gang leader Long, who is usually elusive, is now leading a young boy for a stroll. Who is he? Could it be the Prince of Pu? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Even if the Prince of Pu comes, our gang leader Long will not show up in person, unless the Emperor of Pu comes in person. The left and right bodyguards are following behind. It's really weird. It took Long Keiji and Su Poman nearly an hour to reach the top. Lingayan Peak is the real headquarters of the Giant Whale Gang. There are 3 large halls on the top of the peak, namely the Giant Whale Hall, Kangayan Hall, and Tabeo Hall. In addition, behind each hall are houses. The back mountain is surrounded by a tall stone wall, leaving only a block iron gate for access. According to Long KG, the back mountain is a forbidden area for the giant whale gang, where the Grand Elders retreat. Unless it's a matter of life and death, the Grand Elders must not be disturbed. In the giant whale hall, Long KG handed Su Poman 2 tokens, one for the Elders, the other for the Master of the Azure Dragon Hall, engraved with a 5-clawed Azure Dragon. Elder Su, from now on, you'll be a member of our giant whale gang. I hope you'll diligently cultivate, unleash your talents, and bring honor and glory to our gang, Long KG said slowly and earnestly, his eyes filled with eager anticipation. Su Poman bowed and said, I will not let the leader down. Ha ha ha, good boy, I will pass the news of your appointment to all the branches. I will ask a painter to paint your portrait later, and a tailor will come to tailor clothes for you. You go to Kyanho Peak and wait for a while. Someone will arrange everything for you. Long KG smiled, his eyes were very kind, as if he was looking at his own junior. Su Poman nodded and said, okay, leader, I will go down the mountain to Kyanho Peak first. Take care, Elder Su. If you have anything to say, you can come to the main peak to find me. If you want to, you can come and have a drink and chat. Okay, I will definitely come to ask the leader if I have any questions. There will be another chapter later. Thank you for your support, fellow Taoists. Chapter 34 Yin Wan Chao. After Su Poman left the hall, the smile on Long KG's face gradually faded into a sigh. He stretched out his hand, glanced at his own mighty palm, and sighed. It's true that the new generation pushes the old generation forward. If I don't encounter something extraordinary in this lifetime, I'm afraid I'll have no hope of becoming a Grandmaster. I hope this Su Poman can bring me some surprises. Boss, would you like the two of us to keep an eye on Su Poman? The left guardian's icy face shifted, and he spoke slowly. Long KG shook his head and said, trust those you employ, and don't employ those you doubt. A talent like this, if those 4 sects weren't fools, they wouldn't want to use him as a hidden pawn. Besides, once he matures, our giant whale gang might even have a chance of resolving its dispute with the Kanglang Hall in the northwest. The 2 guardians nodded in agreement. Recalling Su Poman's strength, it was unlikely he was a spy sent by another sect at the foot of Kyanho Peak. Su Poman looked up at the hill, curiosity in his eyes. The warriors who inhabited this peak were all disciples of the Azure Dragon Hall, holding a preeminent position within the giant whale gang. The path up the mountain was a stone staircase steeper than even Lingayan Peak, a climb that would have been a struggle for any ordinary person. Su Poman ascended slowly, his step steady, his pace slow, as he surveyed the mountain scenery. Green vines grew thickly in the cracks between the black earth and stone, dotted with a striking red flower. In the sunlight, it looked alluring, a crimson like blood. A gentle breeze rustled the red flowers among the vines, bringing with it a burst of fragrant aroma. This fragrance was unlike any other floral scent Su Poman had ever smelled. Its delicate aroma left a sweet taste in his mouth, slightly uplifting his spirits, like a cup of coffee. The stone steps flattened as they reached the mountainside, and houses began to appear around them. Most of these houses had their doors tightly shut. From time to time, the clinking of swords and knives could be heard, as if someone was practicing martial arts. Su Poman continued ascending the steps. Before long, he spotted 3 figures blocking the intersection. They were dressed in robes made of precious silk. The young man in the lead folded his arms, looking down at Su Poman, his eyes gleaming with eagerness. Who dares to trespass into the Kanglang Hall of Kyanho Peak? Watch out for the sword, the pale-faced young man in the lead shouted, then drew his sword, leaping repeatedly across the stone steps before charging at Su Poman with lightning speed. The strike was swift and powerful, its light radiating internal energy. Even a 5th-rank warrior would have to be cautious, fearing injury if he wasn't careful. Su Poman smiled faintly, thrusting his palms together and thrusting forward. He precisely caught a thrusting sword. The pale-faced young man paused for a moment, then quickly altered his tactics, surging his internal energy and enveloping the sword. He twisted the blade, attempting to wrench it back with all his might. However, he had clearly underestimated Su Poman's strength. Despite his full effort, the sword remained motionless. Veins bulged on the pale-faced young man's forehead, and his figure swelled with a surge of energy and blood. His arms were as thick as an average man's thighs. Open it, the young man roared. His clothes ripping off his arms, revealing his muscular arms as he strained with all his might to draw the sword. "Since you want it, I'll give it back to you." Su Poman's hands separated, and the pale-faced young man instantly wrestled the sword back. However, due to the excessive force he had exerted, his lower body lost its balance, sending him flying backwards and landing heavily on the stone steps. "Brother Yin, are you okay?" Two men behind him hurried forward to help him up. Yin Wanchao waved his hand, stood up, and bowed respectfully to Su Poman, saying, "Greetings, Hall Master Su. I am Yin Wanchao, the Yin Dragon from the 12 zodiac signs of the Azure Dragon. I was just itching to learn some skills and wanted to ask you a question. I apologize for any offense. Please forgive me." "Oh? You know me?" Su Poman asked curiously. He had only been at the headquarters for half a day and had just received the appointment. How could this young man know his identity? Reporting to Hall Master Su, "I saw you go up the mountain with the gang leader Long. My grandfather told me that you have been appointed as the Hall Master of the Azure Dragon Hall and asked me to wait here for your instructions," Yin Wanchao said in a very respectful tone, and it was obvious that the previous fight had already convinced him. Su Poman asked, somewhat puzzled, "Your grandfather, Elder Wei, is my grandfather, Hall Master Su. When he told me a young man, not even my age, would become the leader of the Azure Dragon Hall, I wasn't convinced. But after our fight just now, I no longer dare to disobey. I hope you can forgive my rash actions," Yin Wanchao said, scratching the back of his head with embarrassment. Su Poman waved his hand and said casually, "It's okay. The disciples of the Azure Dragon Hall are indeed extraordinary. Your strength should have reached the 5th rank, right, Hall Master? All of us, the 12 Azure Dragons, are martial artists of the 5th rank. The lowest strength of the ordinary Azure Dragon Hall disciples is at least 6th rank," Yin Wanchao said with immense pride. Su Poman nodded, thinking that as one of the 5 major sects, the Giant Whale Gang must have some heritage. To be able to support such a group of masters, who take time off to focus on martial arts, their annual expenditure must be considerable. "Is the Deputy Hall Master of the Azure Dragon Hall here?" Su Poman asked casually. Yin Wanchao sheathed his sword and pointed to the summit of Kyonho Peak. He explained with a smile, "Hall Master, Palace Master Du is awaiting you at the Qinglong Hall on Kyonho Peak. I've specially met you halfway to lead the way. Please follow me." Although Lord Du is the Deputy Hall Master, he spends much of his time in the Qinglong Hall, so we generally address him as Palace Master Du. As Yin Wanchao spoke, he led the way, sword slung over his shoulder. 2 other Qinglong Hall disciples followed behind Su Poman with respectful expressions. Although the previous exchange had only lasted a single move, Su Poman's demonstration of blade grabbing with his bare hands had truly astonished them. Furthermore, given his status, these 2 Qinglong Hall disciples, not among the 12 zodiac signs, naturally dared not show any slights. The group soon reached the summit of Kyonho Peak. This area was not large, far smaller than Lingayan Peak, consisting of only a large hall and 2 luxurious mansions. The gilded glazed tiles of the Azure Dragon Hall shimmered in the sunlight. Beneath the hall, 2 coiled dragon pillars clung to 2 ferocious, cyan stone dragons. The claws, whiskers, eyes, and scales were all meticulously rendered. A tall, sallow-faced elder stood at the hall's entrance. Upon seeing Su Poman, he approached with a smile. "Are you Elder Su?" "Yes, I am," Su Poman replied, producing 2 tokens and waving them before the sallow-faced elder. "My humble name is Du Changjiang. I greet the Hall Master. Please follow me into the Azure Dragon Hall for a chat." Du Changjiang bowed respectfully. "Please vote for me and recommend me. I'll continue to update tomorrow, saving my drafts over the weekend. Thank you all for your support, favorites, and tips. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35, I won't just choose sword cultivation, I'll use body cultivation as my trump card. The protagonist possesses a full complement of skills, possessing a complete range of physical forms, fists, sword techniques, spells, talismans, and formations. This is clear from the introduction. However, he's wary of being possessed by another body and doesn't want to stand out too much, so his initial appearance is simple to avoid being targeted. He possesses numerous hidden weapons. In the world of Immortal Cultivation, there are no primary weapons. Old Demon Han possesses the Kingayan Bamboo Bee Sword and has cultivated a Brahma True Demon art, so his methods of combat are not so limited. Let's be clear, using a sword initially doesn't mean he won't use his physical form later. And it doesn't really matter initially, we're all mortals, after all. Sword cultivation is a public skill for a reason. First, many old monsters nearing the end of their lives in the immortal world prefer to possess those with special physiques. Choosing a sword cultivator is a cover-up, using them as a visible attack method while using the physical form as a trump card. Second, a sword cultivator's characteristic is high attack power but low health pool, much like a fragile assassin in a game. Choosing a sword cultivator offers the highest burst of attack power of all classes, while also possessing a superhuman physique to compensate for their defensive shortcomings. A combination of tankiness and high damage output, isn't that a good choice? Besides, being handsome is a lifelong pursuit. Third, the protagonist will undoubtedly secretly learn physical cultivation techniques and attack methods, but this learning is done in secret, hidden from public view, and used as a trump card. Just when the enemy finally thinks he's unleashed all his might, they discover his strongest point is actually his physical body. Isn't that quite fascinating? Fourth, the world of Immortal Cultivation is different from the martial arts world. There's a dazzling array of magical skills and abilities. Simply pursuing a superhuman skill build is a dead end. The primordial spirit and soul must be strengthened, and techniques that enhance spiritual awareness must also be learned. If possessed or attacked, the spiritual awareness is doomed. The physical body is the boat, and the primordial spirit is the sail, enabling them to navigate the sea of suffering and reach the other shores of cultivation. Basically, this is it. Career choices are essentially meaningless in the later stages. Different paths lead to the same goal, and they can only serve as a transitional tool in the early stages. A truly powerful cultivator has no major weaknesses. A late-stage immortal cultivator will possess a vast array of skills, constantly evolving. And it's not that physical cultivation techniques are disregarded, they are simply considered trump cards. Don't worry about suppressing the protagonist, just wait and see, everything will be arranged. Because the settings are different, it is not recommended to use the routines and other novel worlds as a reference. There is basically no way to compare them because of the different settings. Finally, thank you all for your support, and I will continue to add more tomorrow. Chapter 36 Qinglong Hall. Su Poman hurriedly reached up to hold Du Changjiang's arm and whispered, "Mr. Du, there's no need to do this. You are much older than me, so there's no need to perform such a formality. Hey, Hall Master, you are wrong. In the martial arts world, seniority is not judged by age. It's all about strength, and the most accomplished ones come first. Your strength, status, and potential are far beyond ours. Naturally, you are a senior and should accept this formality. You must not break the rules." Du Changjiang insisted on bowing deeply before slowly standing up. He respectfully extended his hand towards the hall and said, "Hall Master Su, please go in first." Su Poman was a little helpless and immediately stepped into the hall. Seeing Su Poman enter the hall, Du Changjiang turned and glanced at Yin Wanchao's torn clothing. His mind, as clear as a mirror, he said calmly, "Yin Wanchao, this won't happen again. If it happens again, I'll personally go find your grandfather, Wanchao. I won't dare again. I hope Palace Master Du will forgive me and don't tell my grandfather." Yin Wanchao bowed with a somewhat panicked look. He had been afraid of his grandfather's stern expression since childhood. If he knew about this, he would definitely receive a beating from the chaotic cloak hammer technique. HMPH, Palace Master Du snorted coldly and quickly chased after him into the hall. Entering the hall, the front was a stone wall. Carved in gold, it depicted a dragon soaring in the clouds. The entire hall was illuminated by the golden mural. Below the mural stood a long black table, on which lay scrolls of bamboo slips and case documents. The sides of the hall were empty. Except for the area illuminated by the lamps, the two sides were mostly shrouded in darkness, giving it a solemn and mysterious feeling. "Elder Su, this will be your office from now on. Any important matters can be discussed and decided here. Also, the assessments and trial arrangements for the Qinglong Hall disciples will be recorded in detail on those 2 rows of bookshelves, so you can access them at any time." Du Changjiang detailed the operation of the Qinglong Hall, giving Su Poman some understanding. The Qinglong Hall currently has a total of 200 disciples, the most outstanding of whom are the 12 Qinglong zodiac signs, Zi, Zhou, Yin, Mao, Chen, Si, Wu, Wei, Shen, Yu, Su, and Hai. These 12 disciples are all 5th-rank warriors, ranked according to their strength and enjoying varying levels of resources. Other disciples can challenge the 12 zodiac signs once a year. Those who succeed in their challenge will be included in the 12 zodiac signs and enjoy even more generous training resources. As for the Qinglong Hall disciples outside the 12 zodiac signs, their resources are inferior, but that's relative. Compared to the disciples of other halls, their treatment is naturally several times better, enough to make them jealous. Qinglong Hall disciples receive a monthly supply of medicinal pills and exotic beast meat from the Internal Affairs Hall. Their daily training regimen is also enriched with expensive medicinal dishes prepared by the giant whale gang's top herbalists. These dishes not only contain the meat of various ferocious beasts, but also a wealth of nourishing herbs, providing sufficient nutrients for Qinglong Hall disciples' internal energy cultivation, without worrying about insufficient qi and blood. Disciples from other halls spend their time completing various quests, earning gang contributions in exchange for cultivation resources or martial arts manuals. Qinglong Hall disciples begin their cultivation with upper-grade Zhuan-level techniques. Upon reaching the 5th level, they have the opportunity to select Earth-level techniques and martial arts from the Transmission Hall. Furthermore, each breakthrough in their cultivation realm earns them substantial rewards from the Internal Affairs Hall, so they only need to focus on their training. Elder Su, I'll gather all Qinglong Hall disciples tomorrow for your guidance, Du Changjiang said with a smile. Su Poman said, Old Du, there is no need to go through so much trouble. This kind of scene is meaningless and a waste of time. Qinglong Hall can still operate in the original way. When the trial period comes, I will personally lead them to complete the trial tasks. Please worry about other things. Du Changjiang recalled the letter the gang leader had given him, and he understood in his heart that the young man in front of him was still focused on cultivation. He nodded and said, Okay, Elder Su, I will be responsible for the operation of Qinglong Hall. You just need to concentrate on cultivation, and leave the rest to me. Also, your residence will be the largest house next to Qinglong Hall. There are servants, cooks, and maids in it. If you don't like any of them, you can change them. The monthly offerings will be offered at the beginning of the month. Su Poman listened to the introduction patiently, and added, Well, Old Du, you can send someone to the Hai gang to bring the 2 maids in my yard. I am used to using them and don't want to change the maids for the time being. No problem, Elder Su, I will send 2 deacons to invite them later. In front of a vast mansion, petals littered the ground. A red cloth enveloped the plaque above. As Su Poman approached, the red cloth fell, revealing the words Su Mansion. This giant whale gang is incredibly efficient. It's only been so long, and they've already finished the plaque, Su Poman thought to himself. Standing at the doorway were 20 uniformly beautiful maids, each one of the finest in both figure and appearance. 4 giant whale gang stewards also stood before the door. Behind them stood 3 portly, middle-aged men who resembled chefs, and finally, an elderly butler. Your servant greets Elder Su, disciple greets Elder Su. The maids and chefs knelt, while the 4 stewards bowed deeply. In this world, warriors generally possessed a certain pride. With the exception of a few exceptional individuals, most wouldn't perform the ritual of kneeling. At most, a long bow to the ground would be considered a sign of respect. No need to be polite. Su Poman raised his hand, feeling as if he were back in some bathhouse on Blue Star, where the young ladies there had greeted him so warmly. Elder Su, are you satisfied with these servants and guards? Du Changjiang asked quietly, raising his eyebrows. Su Poman looked at the graceful maids kneeling beneath him and nodded reluctantly. Du Changjiang smiled with satisfaction and said, Elder Su, come on, I'll show you around, and then I'll let these servants do their jobs. Okay, let's go, Su Poman said as he entered the courtyard. Before him lay a vast training ground, covered with swords, spears, halberds, and other weapons, as well as iron plates, millstones, and other training equipment. Behind the training ground were rows of houses, arranged in a semicircle, surrounding a small garden. In the center of the garden was a lake, where a colorful carp could be seen swimming in the clear waters. Su Poman surveyed the mansion's various arrangements with great satisfaction. Some of the design rivaled Wei Wuji's landscape garden, though its size was limited. Willows overhung the lake, and a long corridor jutted out from the water like a pier. At the end of the corridor stood a small pavilion, draped in translucent veil. Inside, a set of stone chairs sat atop a ring of connected benches. Chapter 37, Water Covering Skill. When Su Poman first saw the design, he was curious about the purpose of the fine yarn. But after seeing the cushions and strange pillows on the benches, he had a vague suspicion. The previous owner of this mansion was quite the playful one, actually having a daytime banquet in this pavilion, Su Poman thought with a quirky smile. He then turned to Du Changjiang and asked, "Who lived here before?" Du Changjiang paused for a moment before confessing, "This mansion was renovated by the previous leader of the Giant Whale Gang, who is also the head of the Azure Dragon Hall. He has passed away now." "Oh, so it was built by the previous leader," Su Poman said calmly, a look of sudden realization on his face. "The hall over there is your residence. I've ordered a banquet. Old Wei Wuji will be joining in the fun later. After this meal, we old guys won't disturb Elder Su's training," Du Changjiang continued, extending his hand and inviting Su Poman to take a seat in the hidden dragon hall. At the luncheon banquet, all three of them imbibed copious amounts of wine. The dishes, all made from exotic beast meat, were incredibly fresh and chewy, each piece a delicacy of premium sashimi quality. Su Poman, enjoying it for the first time, ate a bit too much. As the meat digested, he felt a warm sensation throughout his body, as if his energy and blood had increased slightly. After the banquet, Wei Wuji and Du Changjiang left drunkenly hand in hand, leaving Su Poman and a group of obedient servants alone in the mansion. Su Poman ordered a chair to be brought to the center of the martial arts arena, where he half lay down, basking in the sun and drifting off to sleep. The sunlight bathed him, as if thousands of tiny hands were constantly massaging his muscles. It was a truly pleasurable experience, and a growing sense of satisfaction washed over him. Drunk on the alcohol, Su Poman slept soundly. After finishing their work, the servants all thought their new master was quite strange. In the middle of the afternoon, when the sun was blazing, he insisted on taking a nap. "Why is Elder Su taking a nap in the martial arts arena?" Kang Qing asked, somewhat puzzled. He was a 6th-rank warrior, and had come here with 3 other people on a mission to guard a newly appointed elder of the Giant Whale Gang. Upon first meeting Su Poman, he was astonished. This young man, seemingly about the same age as his son, possessed the strength to hold the position of elder. An elder of the Giant Whale Gang was a 4th-rank warrior, capable of commanding an entire prefecture and considered a top-tier figure in the martial arts world. There were only about 200 4th-rank warriors in the entire Pu Kingdom, yet this young man, barely the same age as his son, possessed such prowess. Kang Qing's family held considerable influence. An uncle of his was the helmsman of Lingayan Prefecture. He was a powerful figure in their family, commanding the empire, and everyone revolved around him. This mission had been assigned by the family's prominent figure, who had promised him an opportunity. He had inquired about the other 3 guards, and they all had connections. Kang Qing wasn't gifted, but he possessed a certain amount of intelligence, and he generally understood his uncle's point. He quietly watched Elder Su snoring in the courtyard, then glanced at the bright sun in the sky. Suddenly, an idea struck him. "I have to go and show off." Kang Qing approached Butler Joe and whispered, "Old Joe, are there any curtains here for shade?" "Curtains?" Butler Joe paused, then, seeing Su Poman snoring in the sun, a sudden realization dawned on him. Yes. You see, I'm so stupid. I don't even need reminders for something like this. I'll send someone to get it." Not long after, Su Poman felt the comfort he had felt suddenly vanish. His brow furrowed, and through half-closed eyes, he saw a massive black curtain looming overhead, completely blocking out the sunlight. He rose leisurely and waved to Butler Joe. Steward Joe trotted up with a fawning smile and asked, "Master, what are your orders? Who told you to block out the sunlight?" "Remove this curtain," Su Poman said, somewhat annoyed. Steward Joe shrank his head, a look of surprise. He hadn't expected to flatter someone on his first day and had backfired. He quickly apologized, "I'll withdraw immediately." "Master, please forgive me," he waved his hand and said anxiously, "What are you standing there for? Come and remove the curtain." His tone was anxious and accusing, and he stared at Kang Qing with wide eyes, a hint of resentment. Kang Qing's face froze at this, and he quickly called the other 3 guards to come and remove the curtain. Su Poman stepped into the sunlight and stretched. The alcohol had almost dissipated from his body, and his handsome face was radiant, which attracted the attention of several nearby maids. He took out the 2 secret manuals Elder Wei had given him and began to study them in the sunlight. One contained the giant whale gang's top-tier martial arts technique, the Fu Shui Guang, and the other, a sword technique known as the Zhuangtian sword technique. He had previously asked someone to obtain them from the transmission hall, but unexpectedly, Elder Wei had delivered them directly to him. The Fu Shui Guang was a mid-grade, Earth-level internal energy technique, accessible only to those who had made significant contributions to the giant whale gang. It had 12 levels, and mastery of it could reach the first rank of the martial Dao, a water-attributed technique that led directly to the pinnacle of martial arts. Other disciples, even using gang contributions to redeem them, could only reach the 8th level. Only those who reached a certain status within the giant whale gang would be granted the subsequent levels. The handwritten volume in Su Poman's hand contained the complete 12-level technique of the Fu Shui Guang. He had previously practiced a Di Langju, also a water-attributed technique, sharing the same attributes. Therefore, switching to the Fu Shui Guang wouldn't significantly reduce his internal energy. Switching to a technique with a different attribute would incur significant internal energy losses, not only diminishing his strength but also risking incursion if the techniques conflicted. The Fu Shui Guang was dozens of times more complex than the Di Langju. The mental formula alone contained tens of thousands of words, and there were even hundreds of thousands more words devoted to practice precautions. At the end of the manual, a copy of gang leader Long Keiji's early experiences practicing the technique was included, helping Su Poman avoid many setbacks. By the time he finished reading the manual, it was already dark. He quickly reviewed the mental formula once more, confirming his accuracy. Then, returning to the main hall, he placed the technique and martial arts in a chest in his bedroom. By then, the maids had already begun preparing pre-dinner desserts and fruit, while the 3 cooks were preparing a vast amount of food for Su Poman's evening meal. As an elder of the giant whale gang and head of the Azure Dragon Hall, Su Poman's standard of food far exceeded that of the 12 Azure Dragons. Medicinal foods and exotic animal meat were provided in unlimited quantities. Su Poman frowned as he gazed at the mountain of food, thinking, warriors in this world really can eat. While the food the cooks prepared wasn't much, equivalent to that of an average 4th-rank warrior, it was clearly too much for Su Poman. Please vote for me and recommend me. It's going to get even better. Chapter 38, Change of Cultivation. To avoid wasting the food, Su Poman decided to practice the Fu Shui Gong before eating. Having basked in the sun for most of the day, he felt no hunger at all. The first thing he had to do was to transform the internal energy he had learned from the Di Langju into the Fu Shui Guang. He dismissed everyone, not even the maid, for fear that his mind would wander during practice. Any mishap would be a serious problem, becoming possessed would be the least of his problems. Therefore, it was generally best to find a relatively quiet environment for practice. If conditions were truly impassive, practicing was still possible, though its effectiveness would be greatly reduced. Su Poman silently reviewed the mantra for the first level of the Fu Shui Guang, then began to mobilize the internal energy in his danshan to slowly flow out of it, circulating along a new meridian path. After a single cycle of this new path, strands of light sign internal energy transformed into deep sign. The light sign energy within his danshan was constantly transforming, a process that resulted in a small loss of energy. However, this wasn't a major issue. His 8th-grade realm would decline. Instead, the influx of higher-quality deep sign internal energy would elevate his overall strength. A full half-hour passed, and a faint white mist permeated Su Poman's head, rising like a kettle of boiling water. By this point, the internal energy within his danshan had completely transformed into deep sign, and it began to flow continuously according to the Fu Shui Gong technique. His qi and blood were constantly surging, and with each cycle, a strand of deep sign internal energy was generated within them. This efficiency was over 10 times greater than that of the Di Langju. Similarly, the rate of qi and blood loss increased significantly. With each cycle, a slight loss of qi and blood occurred, accelerating his body's energy consumption. Soon, Su Poman could feel the energy he had accumulated during the day steadily depleting. Slowly, the feeling of fullness within him faded, and a sense of emptiness even grew. Another hour passed, and a small cloud appeared above Su Poman's head, swirling with white mist, appearing extremely mysterious. Gurgle, Su Poman began to feel hungry, and a thunderous sound echoed from his stomach. He opened his eyes, and a flash of light suddenly appeared in his vision. Within him, a tsunami-like sound echoed. It's time to end this training. Continuing would probably damage my Ki and Blood foundation, Su Poman muttered quietly. This time, his shift in cultivation had been a resounding success. Not only had he transitioned to the water covering technique, he had also completed several great circulations, solidifying his 8th grade martial arts realm. Su Poman, looking at the mountain of delicacies before him, suddenly felt a surge of appetite. He stood up and walked to the table, first grabbing a roasted double rhinoceros yak thigh and biting into it, devouring every shred of meat. Tisk, this exotic beast meat tastes truly delicious, and with this flavoring sauce, it surpasses anything on Blue Planet, Su Poman mumbled in praise as he chewed. The enormous roasted beef leg weighed a good 40 or 50 pounds, carved with elaborate patterns and saturated with black flavoring sauce, its surface dripping with golden fat. A bite was followed by a crispy texture, followed by the flavoring sauce's impact on the taste buds. The wonderful combination of spices rushed directly from the tongue to the brain. The meat fibers were incredibly chewy, each distinctly textured, emitting a red and white sheen. The contrast between the texture and the crispy exterior was striking. Su Poman closed his eyes and devoured the food, savoring the first bite of delicious food before him, a feeling of complete happiness welling up within him. The chefs at the Giant Whale Gang are truly special. This food is simply divine. I guess I'll have to practice for a while every night from now on, if for no other reason than to enjoy this delicious treat, Su Poman thought to himself, his hands constantly in motion. In one hand, he held the exotic beast's leg, in the other, a silver wine jug. Occasionally, he would sip a sip of jadeberry wine, a sensation even more refreshing than Fanny's happy water. Inside the hidden dragon hall, the lights dimmed as a single figure devoured a feast, devouring it without a trace of form. In the interplay of light and shadow, the maids waiting outside seemed to see a strange figure strutting across the table. Su Poman ate for nearly half an hour. Once he had sated himself, he ordered the servants to clear the table. He then retired to his bedroom to study the top-grade local martial art, the Zhuangquan sword technique. The bedroom was large and luxuriously furnished. Su Poman took out his sword manual and began to peruse it by the light of an oil lamp. This martial art was immensely powerful, dozens of times more advanced than the swift wind sword he had previously learned. Su Poman felt dizzy after only briefly observing it. Knowing his foundation was too weak, he decided to give up, deciding to first perfect his basic swordsmanship and master some Earth-level sword techniques before pursuing this Earth-level martial art. The next day, just as the sun rose, Su Poman emerged from his bed and dressed with the help of 2 maids. After breakfast, he arrived at the center of the martial arts arena and, under the sun, began practicing the water covering technique. Because he had already accumulated a considerable amount of internal energy before switching to the art, his water covering technique had already reached the 2nd level. When it was activated, deep cyan internal energy circulated rapidly throughout his body, flowing through his flesh and blood along each meridian. Every strand of flesh, blood, and vein was nourished by the internal energy, and his physical strength was constantly increasing under this internal energy. The efficiency of the water covering technique was significantly higher than that of the wave repeating technique, but it did not reach the recovery limit of the black iron body. Therefore, as long as he was in the sun, he could practice continuously without worrying about excessive loss of ki and blood. White gas continuously emanated from Su Poman's head, and a faint rumbling sound of ki and blood flowing could be heard within his body. With each transfer of ki and blood, the water covering technique automatically activated, generating a ball of deep cyan internal energy from the ki and blood. During this moment, the ki and blood in his body would dim, but the next moment, under the sunlight, under the influence of the black iron body, it would once again be extremely full, even further enhanced. With the dual effects of the deep cyan internal energy and the black iron body, Su Poman's physical body strengthened at an even faster rate. Even now, he was not sure of the extent of his own defense. Perhaps only after a true battle with a master would he know for sure. That afternoon, the maids, Kantir and Ruzhu, were sent to the Su mansion. Steward Joe had them specially installed in a room adjacent to Qianlong Hall, so they could readily care for Su Poman. Life in Qinglong Hall was uneventful. Su Poman remained confined to the Su mansion, cultivating his inner energy by day and studying martial arts at night. The days passed with remarkable speed. Inside a dimly lit hall on Lingayan Peak, the lights were dim, and the surroundings were shrouded in darkness. "Hey, has that Su kid been active lately?" In the darkness, Long Kg slowly concluded his practice and stood, stepping out from a cloud of white mist, emerging into the light. I'll update tomorrow. I've been so busy today that I didn't have enough supplies stocked up. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 39 Ghost Gate. The left protector had no expression on his face, and said lightly, reporting to the gang leader, Elder Su has become a hands-off boss recently. Du Changjiang is still in charge of everything in the Qinglong Hall. He has been practicing in the courtyard and there is nothing unusual. Well, it seems that Elder Su doesn't like power. However, in order for him to deepen his connection with my giant whale gang, I have to find a way to add some ties. By the way, what's the news from the Northwest? According to the news from the Northwest branch, they have fought with the wolf cubs of the Qinglong Hall several times recently, but there has been no winner, and both sides have suffered losses. However, the frequency of their activities has increased recently. The branch over there has begun to mobilize manpower and be alert to their sudden robbery at any time. They seem to care about the black gold mine very much and show no signs of letting go, the right protector replied in a deep voice from the darkness, his voice a little hoarse. The Azure Dragon Hall's next mission will be in the northwest. Since the Qinglong Hall won't budge, it's time for us to get serious. Otherwise, you'll be treating us like easy prey. After all, that thing inside is of paramount importance. A sharp glint flashed in Long Keiji's eyes, revealing a hint of a tyrannical aura. He then spoke into the darkness, right protector, arrange it immediately. The Azure Dragon Hall's next trial will be in 3 months. By then, the northwest winds will be strong, perfect for training them, as you command. An old, hoarse voice echoed from the darkness, followed by the sound of wind within the hall, and the candlelight flickered toward the hall entrance. Nanayu Kingdom. Within the outer gate of the ghost spirit sect, a vortex of spiritual energy suddenly appeared in the sky above a stone chamber. To those using the spiritual eye technique, its shape resembled a funnel, thick at the top and narrow at the bottom. Spiritual energy was continuously drawn in from all directions and poured back into the stone chamber. Soon, the spiritual vortex dissipated, and a long howl echoed from within the stone chamber. Ho-ha-ho-ha. After decades of seclusion, I've finally broken through to the Foundation establishment stage. A dark-haired elder broke through the stone chamber's door and soared into the air, his entire body suspended in midair, laughter uncontrollably unleashing. Shortly thereafter, 3 men in pitch-black robes, a ghostly aura, arrived. Leading them was a 60-year-old, ungainly man with triangular eyes. He was the first to shout out his congratulations, Ancestor, on your breakthrough. Now you've been admitted to the inner sect as a disciple. Our Qinglong lineage has also established a strong foundation within the ghost spirit sect. The dark-haired elder slowly descended, his aura receding. The wrinkles on his face faded slightly, his face flushed, his lips curled high, his expression unconcealed with joy. Congratulations, Ancestor, on your successful foundation establishment, adding another 500 years to your lifespan. May you enjoy eternal youth and soon achieve the golden elixir, another skinny elder in a conical hat said with a fawning smile. As for the last person, although he was built with strong shoulders and sturdy build, his brain didn't seem to be very bright. He couldn't think of any good words for a while. He could only bow and laugh dryly and say something like congratulations to the ancestor for his successful breakthrough. The black-haired old man responded with a nasal sound, and then he spoke slowly in a meaningful tone. At a young age, I had already achieved the first rank of martial arts. I thought I was gifted, so I abandoned the authority of the Lord of the Qinglong Palace and came to this Nanayu Kingdom in search of immortal fate. After going through untold hardships, I was finally selected by the Ascension Envoy and entered this ghost spirit sect. I did not expect that my aptitude in the path of immortal cultivation was so dull. It took me nearly 200 years to barely break through. Looking back, it is really sad. The 3 of you were all born in mortal countries. I suffered first and paved the way for you, so that you can easily join the Immortal Cultivation sect without having to embark on the path of seeking immortality. This is your blessing. Now that I have broken through to the Foundation establishment stage, I am also qualified to send Ascension envoys to select spirit children. You should continue the immortal fate for my Qinglong Palace. Go to the Qinglong Palace in Pu Kingdom and select a few spirit children with the aptitude for immortal cultivation. Then we can also establish a faction in this ghost spirit sect and no longer need to rely on others. The ancestor's success in establishing his foundation shows his extraordinary talent. We, the young men, have been able to enter the immortal sect thanks to the ancestor's great blessing. We have already successfully refined the key into our bodies and have become true immortal cultivators. Now that the Ancestor is willing to establish a faction, we are willing to serve as envoys of ascension to the Pu kingdom to select spiritual children. The ugly middle-aged man was the first to agree. As for the other two, they were a little hesitant. Immortal cultivators who want to break through the realm need to spend a lot of time refining the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. If they are entangled in mundane matters, it is easy to affect their progress. This is extremely unbearable for cultivators who are wholeheartedly pursuing the great Dao. The skinny old man licked his lips and glanced at the sturdy man beside him with a look of infatuation. He said nothing. His life was coming to an end, and he dared not waste time on such mundane matters. That's right, Zhaigong. You and Meng Shan will go to Puguo to select spirit seeds. I'll go to the inner sect to exchange my identity token and claim my sect reward. I'll arrange this upon my return, the black-haired elder said expressionlessly. He then glanced at the skinny old man and said coldly, as for Tao Shuling, stay within the sect and serve me. The burly man hesitated, not daring to refuse. While he looked somewhat foolish, this was merely a facade. Deep down, he possessed a certain shrewdness. He knew that even if he refused, it would be useless. The strongest of their number was only at the 4th level of key refining, unable to resist the demands of a foundation establishment expert. Therefore, he had no choice but to accompany Zhaigong to Puguo to select spirit seeds. Upon hearing this arrangement, the skinny old man felt worried rather than happy, his face bitter. He could hear the dissatisfaction in Ning Xianhong's tone. His recent performance had displeased him, and he feared he wouldn't have a truly peaceful time within the sect. Zhaigong, standing nearby, gloated, stealing a glance at Tao Shuling, his triangular eyes filled with mockery. Tao Shuling smacked his lips, unfazed by Zhaigong's snarky demeanor. Yes, the three men bowed their heads in obedience. The black-haired elder nodded, then vanished from their side in a flash. Time flowed like water, and 3 months flew by in a flash. During this time, Su Poman practiced tirelessly in his own courtyard, basking in the sun. His Fushuguang, water-covering technique, advanced to a new level, and his martial arts prowess reached the level of a 7th-grade warrior. His internal energy became even more powerful, and his ki and blood increased significantly throughout his body. This terrifying power, hidden within his flesh and blood, once fully unleashed, would cause Su Poman's form to undergo a dramatic transformation, like the Hulk transforming, becoming even larger. This phenomenon is common among martial artists. When a martial artist's ki and blood and internal energy reach a certain level, once they exert their full strength, their muscles and bones will deform under the full flow of ki and blood. A skinny young man would instantly become a tall, muscular man. After some thought, I decided to add more chapters today. I'll just write more tomorrow. Fellow Daoists, please vote for the monthly recommendation tickets. Your support is my motivation to complete the book. Chapter 40, Second Stage. Su Poman had recently issued an ongoing gang mission at the mission office, focusing on collecting aged medicinal herbs. Due to his high status, the mission office attached great importance to this task. The giant whale gang disciples, eager to earn the high contribution points, flocked to this mission, traveling extensively to acquire the herbs. In just 3 months, Su Poman had collected hundreds of energetic herbs. The purple source wheel absorbed these herbs, converting them into 216 energy points. Adding the 2 energy points contributed by the Ganoderma lucidum, he now had 218 energy points. Su Poman was practicing in the courtyard that day when a deacon brought him a letter from Long Kg, stating that the Qinglong Hall disciples' trial would begin in 5 days at the Northwest Branch, urging him to prepare in advance. As the Qinglong Hall master, he was required to personally lead the team to the trial. His primary responsibility was to eliminate any unauthorized factors and prevent top masters from other sects from wantonly slaughtering the Qinglong Hall's talented disciples. As for the dangers that might arise during the trial, he didn't need to worry. Only after these geniuses had truly experienced life or death trials, where the fittest would survive, would the truly elite remain. Su Poman decided to use the purple source roulette to draw his abilities once more before setting off, fully preparing for the upcoming trials. He lay flat on the bench, closed his eyes, and lightly tapped the roulette's light screen with his mind. Click, the ancient and mysterious wheel shifted a notch. Searching for target, establishing link, drawing, ding, 218 energy points spent, drawing successfully, obtaining a Superman physique fragment, achieving a 2nd level black iron body, doubling the light energy enhancement rate in defense, a warm current surged from within, continuously transforming Su Poman's body. This warmth, like the first spring breeze after winter, caressed every inch of his body, bringing such a refreshing comfort that he couldn't help but moan, leaving Katir and Ruzu, who were waiting beside him, somewhat stunned. Ruzu asked in a low voice with a confused look on her face, "Sister Katir, what's wrong with the young master?" "I don't know either." Could it be that the young master is having an erotic dream? A strange look flashed across Katir's bright eyes, and a blush rose on her pretty face. "Ruzu, let's go serve the young master tonight. I heard that warriors are full of blood and will get sick if they hold it back for a long time. Besides, the young master is so old now, he must want it too, but he's too embarrassed to say it. We have to take the initiative." When Ruzu heard this, her little face suddenly turned red, looking extremely tender and cute. She pinched the corner of her clothes nervously and asked in a low voice, "Sister Katir, I'm a little scared of that, you little girl. If you're scared, then why am I not? The young master is so powerful, and once his blood is stimulated, our ordinary bodies may not be able to withstand such rain and dew. But this is our fate. If we don't seize the opportunity to let the young master take him in, we may be sent away in the future. Do you want to be given to an old man who reeks of alcohol? In comparison, the young master is handsome and elegant. I still like him." Having said that, Katir's eyes moved. Looking at the white-robed figure lying on the bench, a hint of tenderness floating in the depths of her eyes. Not long after, Su Poman's body was completely transformed by the mysterious energy. He lay on the recliner with his eyes closed, quietly feeling the changes brought to his body by the fusion of the superhuman physique fragments. He found that his strength had not increased, but his body's defense had doubled. At the same time, the rate at which he absorbed sunlight to strengthen his body had also doubled. Su Poman was extremely satisfied with the results, especially the doubling of the light energy enhancement, which effectively boosted his physical aptitude by a significant level, and also increased the speed of his internal energy cultivation. In fact, in addition to the purple source wheel extracting superhuman physical fragments, regular sun exposure also helped improve his physical fitness. However, due to the short duration, the effect was not obvious and was not reflected in the data changes on the light screen. However, this time, the light energy enhancement efficiency of the black iron body had doubled, which meant that Su Poman's time to achieve a complete superhuman body was cut in half. At the same time, the effects of regular sun exposure would also be doubled. With a satisfied thought, Su Poman opened the purple source wheel's status light screen. Purple source roulette. Name, Su Poman. Realm, 7th rank warrior. Bloodline, 2nd order black iron body. Abilities, light energy enhancement. 2, supervision, super hearing. Energy points. 0, minimum 10 energy points can be drawn once. Amount available for drawing. 0, click to draw. Current drawing target, Bronze Superman 0.95 per mil. It's almost approaching 1000th. Ha 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 ha, I need to get more sun in the future. Su Poman was a little happy in his heart. After closing the light curtain, he opened his eyes and turned his head to look at the two people who were whispering behind him. "Hey, you two little girls, what are you thinking about?" When the two maids heard this, their legs went weak and they fell to the ground. Their beautiful figures could not stop shaking on the ground. The slender waist that could be held in one hand and the swaying balls made Su Poman's heart flutter. "Master, I was wrong. I shouldn't have said anything, Master, it's all Ruzu's fault. She shouldn't have asked such nonsense. If you want to punish me, punish me. It has nothing to do with Sister Katir, Ruzu has nothing to do with it. It was Katir who started talking nonsense. If you want to punish me, punish me." Katir and Ruzu were terrified and apologized profusely, their faces pale. Su Poman found it somewhat amusing and quickly comforted them. "Don't panic, you two. I don't blame you. You're not guilty of talking. Just don't let your imagination run wild. Now, go get me some fruit." "Yes, Master," Katir quickly responded, rising to bring some fruit. Ruzu followed behind, still a little frightened. Su Poman watched the two graceful figures leave, his heart torn. Of course, he wanted to eat the two maids, but he felt so guilty, like he had committed a crime. Katir was only 17, and Ruzu was only 15, still minors on Blue Star. Su Poman felt it would be a bit of a beast to take them into his room so ruthlessly. After all, they were only 15. Although people in this world matured earlier, with some girls marrying at 13 or 14. Su Poman felt they were still somewhat immature, young girls who hadn't yet grasped the world. It would be a bit cruel to just pick them. Let's keep them for another 2 years, Su Poman thought to himself, feeling a bit guilty about raising a child bride. Not long after, Katir and Ruzu arrived, one in front and one behind, carrying 2 large trays filled with various fruits and snacks. Placing the trays on the table, Katir approached Su Poman with a bunch of grapes, carefully peeling them, and then offering them to his mouth. Chapter 41, Inch Cloud Step. Young master, have a grape, Katir said gently. Su Poman opened his mouth, and a sweet grape slipped into it. As his lips closed, they accidentally brushed against Katir's delicate fingers, and a hint of a young woman's unique fragrance filled his nostrils. It was a delicate aroma, with a hint of sweet milk deep within, the body fragrance of an unmarried woman. Katir's arm trembled as if struck by electricity. She felt the gentle warmth of her fingers, and her heart raced, as if a deer were fluttering in her chest. A hint of infatuation crossed her eyes, and she frantically lowered her head to hide it. Ruzu approached, holding a piece of cut fruit on a bamboo skewer and feeding it to Su Poman. Naive as she was, she didn't notice Katir's anomaly, only finding it amusing to feed her young master, like a pet raising game. Su Poman savored the food from the beautiful woman for a moment before returning to his training. He already knew that true immortals existed in this world, and he yearned to pursue them. He wanted to cultivate rapidly, grow stronger, and then cross the Great Kang Plains to seek the immortals of the second-class cultivation kingdom. Everyone aspires to become an immortal, capable of flight and immortality. This is the primal desire of all living things for evolution. Throughout Pu Kingdom's history, countless ancestors have sought immortality, attempting to find the path to greater heights. Su Poman was no exception, and the Xianxia films of Blue Planet had a profound influence on him. As a child, he passionately pursued the sword immortals who riding the wind with a sword, slaying demons between heaven and earth. He practiced with a wooden sword purchased on Mount Tai, countlessly experimenting with his sword controlling mantras he'd seen on television, even reciting them in his dreams. Only as he grew older did he relinquish these immature thoughts. Of course, he harbored another deeper obsession. Su Poman was a homesick man. Although his life in this world was smooth and comfortable, he still couldn't help but miss his family on Blue Star. Therefore, he wanted to become even stronger, strong enough to travel through time and space and return to Blue Star as soon as possible. Su Poman shook his head, clearing his chaotic thoughts and beginning to meditate. Near dusk, Su Poman finished his practice. A small cloud of white energy had already gathered above his head, and the internal energy in his danchin had increased slightly. Just then, Kang Qing walked in from outside. Seeing that Su Poman had finished his practice, he announced loudly, "Young master, a messenger has arrived, let him in," Su Poman said lazily. He stood up and circulated his internal energy. A burst of heat suddenly appeared, quickly drying his upper body's clothes. Steward Joe led a deacon from the giant whale gang to the martial arts arena. The deacon was about 50 years old, dressed in green, and had a very respectful demeanor. "Greetings, Elder Su. I've received orders from the gang leader to proceed to the main peak to discuss important matters," the green-robed deacon bowed. "Yes, I understand. You go ahead. I'll change and head to the main peak. I'll take my leave." With Kair and Ruzu at his service, Su Poman changed into the attire of a giant whale gang elder. It was a luxurious purple-black robe, more suitable for middle-aged and elderly men, but it made Su Poman look a bit old-fashioned. With the elder's order dangling from his waist, Su Poman left the Su mansion and headed for Lingine Peak. During this time, he had also cultivated his one-level, upper-grade Qingguang technique called Inch Cloud Step, which he had now reached minor success. Combined with his inherently extraordinary speed, his movements were even more powerful than those of the Earth-level, upper-grade Qingguang. He swept across the mountain path like a gust of wind, leaving the disciples only a fleeting shadow. If they tried to catch a glimpse of him again, he was gone. Compared to other Qingguang techniques, the Inch Cloud Step possesses higher physical demands. Physical strength is the most demanding aspect of its execution, while internal energy cultivation is relatively low, allowing even 9th-grade warriors to perform it with ease. However, ordinary warriors have limited stamina, and continuous execution can quickly exhaust their energy, making it somewhat counterproductive. This Qingguang technique seemed tailor-made for Su Poman. Thanks to his second-grade black iron body, his physical strength is virtually inexhaustible. Even in the absence of sunlight, he can perform it continuously without feeling any fatigue. His energy regenerates far faster than this Qingguang consumes it, Making the inch cloud step his preferred Qigong technique. Before long, Su Poman reached the summit platform. Upon his appearance, nearby disciples greeted him with greetings. Su Poman, without airs, smiled and nodded in response to each of his requests before walking directly into the giant whale hall. Is he the newly promoted Elder Su? He looks so young. He's indeed young, only in his early 20s. His martial arts talent is simply terrifying. I heard he's also the leader of the Azure Dragon Hall. Azure Dragon Hall. That's the most elite branch of our gang. I heard everyone there is a genius, and the weakest one is a 6th grade warrior, inside the giant whale hall. As soon as Su Poman entered, he found the table already full. A dozen elders sat at the long table. The gang leader, Long Kg, sat at the head, with 2 guardians standing behind him. Elder Su is here, come and sit next to me, Long Kg greeted with a smile. Su Poman carefully observed the seating arrangement and noticed that elders with greater seniority and strength sat closer to the front. He was new to the group and unfamiliar with many of the elders. He felt that sitting in the back would draw some resentment, so he waved his hand and declined. Boss Long, I'm still young, so I'll just sit in the outermost seats. Those inside are reserved for the more experienced elders. I can't go there. Upon hearing this, the elders at the long table all warmed to Su Poman. Long Kg insisted, Elder Su, if I say you can sit here, you can sit here. Besides, this discussion is related to the Qinglong Hall's trials, so it would be better if you were closer. If you don't come over, I'll personally invite you, young friend Su, the boss has spoken. You should go and sit. I also think you deserve it. Anyone who disagrees can fight me, Wei Wuji said with a smile. The other elders were no fools. They could tell the boss was trying to win over the young man, and they all spoke up. Elder Su is young and promising, and he's the head of the Azure Dragon Hall. Come inside and take a seat. Yes, the gang leader told you to, so go ahead and sit down. We old guys won't say anything. Su Poman had no choice but to walk over and sit down next to Long Kg. Now that everyone's here, let's get started. Elder Wei, Elder Su is new here and isn't familiar with the place. Can you introduce him to the other 17 elders sitting here? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Test? Wei Wuji stood up and introduced Su Poman to the other dozen or so elders. Su Poman also stood and bowed, acknowledging them. The elders weren't above taking advantage of their seniority, as they all knew the young man's immense potential and were eager to build a close relationship with him. After the elders had finished their rounds, Long Kg began to discuss the recent conflict between the Northwest Branch and the Qinglong Hall. Due to the dire situation, he had decided to hold the Qinglong Hall trial in the Northwest, hoping to exert pressure and force the Qinglong Hall to withdraw from the competition for the Black Gold Mine. Of course, there were deeper reasons for the conflict between the two sects, which could only be discussed privately and not publicly. However, the Qinglong Hall was no pushover, and a more serious conflict between the two sects was highly likely. Therefore, not only would Su Poman be present at this trial, but 2 other elders would also be dispatched to coordinate and prevent a sniper attack from the Qinglong Hall. All the elders present were prominent figures in the giant whale gang. With the exception of Elder K, who seemed half asleep, the other elders enthusiastically offered suggestions and opinions, ultimately being finalized by Long Kg. After all the important matters were discussed, Long Kg ordered a grand banquet, and Su Poman remained there drinking late into the night before being released. Su Poman returned to the Su mansion reeking of alcohol, his clothes stained with the smell of mead and wine. After returning to the Hidden Dragon Hall, he showered and fell into deep sleep. The next morning, Du Changjiang was waiting outside the hall. Su Poman knew he had to meet the disciples of the Azure Dragon Hall today to familiarize himself with them, so he could lead them in the trials in the coming days. After a quick wash, Su Poman and Du Changjiang headed towards the training grounds. On the vast training grounds of Kyonho Peak, 200 young disciples clad in Azure Dragon brocade robes stood. They stood with their heads held high, each staring straight ahead with resolute eyes, emanating an extraordinary aura. At the front of the group stood 12 casually dressed young men and women. Leading them was a cold-faced young man. He wore a white dragon jade crown, a jade robe, and a token with the inscriptions E dangling from his waist. His eyes were filled with pride, their icy gaze a constant aura of keep away from strangers. Behind the jade-robed young man was a woman in red. She was strikingly beautiful, though sadly, she bore a scar about an inch long across her left cheek. Despite this, she was highly sought after within Azure Dragon Hall, possessing a slender figure and long, straight legs. The glimpse of skin beneath her red dress was as white as snow, a sight that captivated the senses. Yin Wanchao was among them, third in line. The token hanging from his waist was engraved with the character Yin. He wore a somewhat cynical demeanor, a faint, wicked smile perpetually adorning his lips. The others were also arranged in the order of Zi, Zhou, Yin, Mao, Chen, Si, Wu, Wei, Shen, Yu, Su, and Hai. They stood in front of the ordinary Qinglong Hall disciples. They were the 12 Qinglong zodiac signs, the Hall's true elite, each possessing the strength of the 5th rank of the martial arts realm. As soon as Su Poman arrived on the training grounds, the Qinglong Hall disciples gasped, their gazes darting over, sizing him up. Their looks contained a variety of emotions, curiosity, surprise, disdain, even defiance. Clearly, Su Poman had been absorbed in his cultivation and hadn't been seen in person, resulting in the disciples not knowing much about him. "Are you the new Qinglong Hall master?" the young man wearing the white dragon jade crown suddenly asked. Du Chengjiang's face drastically changed, and he shouted, "Kongqi, are you crazy? How dare you talk to Elder Su like that?" HMPH, Kongqi snorted, then drew his longsword from his back. He then wiped the blade with a piece of white cloth and said slowly, "If you want to become the leader of the Azure Dragon Hall, you must first gain the recognition of our chief, Zilin, Kongqi. Otherwise, we disciples will not obey." He squinted at Su Poman, his eyes full of defiance. "That's right. If you want to become the leader of the Azure Dragon Hall without making any contribution to our giant whale gang, you must first pass the test of our 12 Azure Dragons." Wulong also jumped out. He was a short and stocky young man with incredibly thick arms, holding 2 broad-bladed swords. "Yes, to become the Hall Master you must first pass the test of the 12 stars. It's tradition." "Ha ha ha, right. This kid looks only in his early 20s, his hair barely fully grown. How can he be my superior?" A group of Azure Dragon Hall disciples in the background started to jeer. "Rebellion. You're truly rebellious," Du Chengjiang roared with a sullen expression. "Elder Su is a respected figure, handpicked by the gang master as Hall Master. How dare you, a bunch of brats, question him?" Du Chengjiang knew these talented disciples were usually rebellious, but he didn't expect them to challenge the Hall Master this time. He glanced at Su Poman, feeling anxious, and for a moment, he couldn't think of a solution. The main problem was that his own martial arts realm was the same as Kongqi's, both late 5th grade warriors, and he had no power to stop this farce. If the 12 Azure Dragon Stars joined forces, he would be no match for 12 genius 5th grade warriors. Even an ordinary elder would have difficulty subduing them simultaneously. "We won't bully you. Just defeat this sword in my hand. Even if you pass, I, Kongqi, will acknowledge you as the head of our Azure Dragon Hall," Kongqi said calmly. Su Poman smiled faintly, took a step forward, and said in a remarkably calm tone, "Come on, all of you, the 12 Azure Dragons. I'll see if your so-called geniuses are truly worthy of the title. Elder Su, this isn't appropriate. Each of these 12 individuals cultivates Earth-level internal energy techniques, and their martial arts are so superb they surpass those of ordinary 5th grade warriors. Even ordinary 4th grade warriors wouldn't be able to withstand them together," Du Chengjiang warned softly. "That's fine." Su Poman waved his hand with a domineering gesture, then swept a cold glance across the crowd. "I'm not picking on anyone. I simply think everyone here is trash." Du Chengjiang. At these words, a deathly silence fell, followed by an uproar. Everyone looked at each other, awestruck. How dare someone say that all of their Qinglong Hall disciples are trash? This is simply unbearable. Too overbearing. Even the newly promoted Qinglong Hall Master can't say that. Because they are all extremely talented. As long as they don't die mid-battle, many elder-level figures will emerge. Chapter 43 Strength is respected. Every Qinglong Hall disciple glared at Su Poman with hostility, some filled with righteous indignation. Low growls rose from the crowd, then a surge of excitement erupted. "What right do you have to call us trash, you? I can't stand it anymore. I'm going to chop him down. Don't stop me." "Oh, I'm so angry. If it weren't for the gang rules forbidding insubordination, I would have attacked long ago." With the exception of Yin Wanshao, the other King Longhall disciples glared at Su Poman with blazing eyes. "Come on, let me see the strength of this King Longhall rabble. I now allow you to insubordinate." Su Poman added fuel to the fire, his gaze icy. If he didn't deal with these unruly and self-righteous King Longhall disciples, he feared his future as a leader wouldn't be much smoother. Kong Qi's expression was ashen as he unsheathed his sword, a bolt of light piercing Su Poman's face. Seeing someone attack, some already hot-tempered and harboring a certain disdain for Su Poman also joined in, the scene suddenly descending into chaos. The 12 azure dragons, save for Yin Wanchao and the woman in red, all attacked simultaneously, and Du Chengjiang felt a terrifying murderous intent envelope him from all directions. "Hall Master, I'll go get some reinforcements. You hold on for a while," Du Chengjiang said, then, using his King Guang technique, sped towards the main peak. Su Poman nodded slightly, unconcerned, his expression calm as he gazed at the incoming sword. With his supervision, the attack seemed to be slowed down countless times, moving in slow motion. Su Poman extended his index finger and lightly flicked it, striking the side of Kong Qi's thrusting sword. Ding hum, Kong Qi felt his internal energy, attached to the sword, instantly destroyed by a tremendous force, which then spread along the blade. Boom! The sword struck his chest sideways, sending him flying backwards. Before he even touched the ground, he witnessed a terrifying scene unfolding. Dozens of King Longhall disciples, like sacks being tossed, flew into the air. Then, one after another, they plummeted to the ground like rain. The sound of heavy objects dropping continuously could be heard. By the time the other King Longhall disciples realized what was happening, they saw their former colleagues lying in a mess. Holy crap! How is this possible? This can't be real. Yin Wanchao had anticipated the outcome, but when he saw how easily Su Poman dispatched the dozens of King Longhall disciples who had attacked, including 10 fifth-grade warriors, his expression was as if he had seen a ghost. He couldn't help but curse, "Holy crap! This is so powerful." The woman in red, who hadn't attacked yet, stared at Kong Qi on the ground with a look of disbelief. As the second-ranked member of the 12-star sequences, she had challenged Kong Qi many times due to his unflattering title. She was well aware of his strength, but she hadn't expected such a formidable figure to be defeated so easily. Su Poman slowly retracted his right hand, clasping it behind his back, his eyes etched with sarcasm as he gazed at the crowd before him. "Is that all? I told you just now, you bunch of trash, you dare to jump around in front of me." This statement made the people lying on the ground blush, their breathing becoming heavier. Some glared at Su Poman with red eyes, their eyes filled with defiance. "We're not trash," someone shouted first. "Yes, we're not trash." The breathing in the crowd quickened, and the Azure Dragon Hall disciples who hadn't participated felt strangely relieved, thankful that they hadn't so recklessly attacked the Hall Master. Otherwise, they would have been the ones to suffer humiliation. At this moment, Du Chengjiang, along with the gang leader and his 2 guardians, arrived near the training grounds of Qianghou Peak. They watched the scene with some surprise. This Elder Su's strength is unfathomable. The left guardian's icy face rarely showed a hint of shock. Long Keiji, standing nearby, nodded silently, carefully observing the situation. "Gang leader, let's go down and stop Elder Su. Otherwise, the morale of the King Longhall disciples will suffer a severe blow. If we're not careful, someone's spirit will be blocked and their martial arts will be unable to improve for the rest of their lives," Du Chengjiang said anxiously, preparing to fly down to stop him. Just then, a large hand stopped him. Long Keiji shook his head, a look of surprise in his eyes. "Wait and see. I think Elder Su may have his own ideas." "Oh?" Su Poman raised his eyebrows, stared at the people in the audience, and asked, "What? Aren't you trash? Since you think you are not trash, then prove it to me. In this trial, whoever fails to meet the trial standards set by me, then, in my opinion, is complete trash." Kong Qi clenched his fists tightly when he heard this, raised his head and looked directly into Su Poman's eyes, and shouted, "I am not trash, I will prove it to you, Hall Master, you are very powerful, and we are convinced this time. But as a disciple of King Longhall, I also want to prove to you that I am not trash. I will prove it too. I am not trash, I will definitely meet the standards in this trial." Everyone present was a young man full of blood. Being stimulated by Su Poman, they all howled, clenched their fists, and roared in a low voice, like a group of angry beasts. Su Poman nodded, a faint smile on his face. Very good. Then I will be the head of your Qinglong Hall. Are you convinced? Kongqi stood up, took a deep breath, sheathed his sword, took a large step forward, and bowed. Kongqi, hello, master. Then, a thunderous roar echoed. Hello, master. At this moment, Su Poman completely convinced them, and his domineering image was truly imprinted in the hearts of every Qinglong Hall disciple. Long Keiji and the others on Qianhou Peak exchanged glances, and Du Changjiang couldn't help but give a thumbs up, exclaiming, Elder Su is truly a master. His provocation is so skillful. Gang leader Long, how did you see that? Long Keiji smiled faintly, but said nothing. He turned to look at Su Poman, whose back was turned. The strange look in his eyes turned into deep admiration. Then, he quietly flew away with his 2 bodyguards. Thank you all fellow Daoists for your support. Chapter 44 Funeral. Su Poman divided the ordinary disciples of the Azure Dragon Hall into 12 teams, each led by one of the 12 Azure Dragon stars. Each team had a different number of members. The strongest, Zilan Kongqi, only brought 5 men, a subtle way of increasing the difficulty of the trial. As for He Long, the last ranked, he had 25 ordinary disciples under his command, which largely made up for the difference in strength. I'll inform you of the specific details of this trial mission when we arrive at the Northwest Branch. Now go back and prepare thoroughly. Gather your weapons, elixirs, and other supplies. We'll depart at sunrise in 3 days. Anyone late will be punished according to the gang rules. Yes, the Azure Dragon Hall disciples dispersed, leaving the training grounds and returning to their respective residences. With the exception of the 12 Azure Dragon stars, none of them were confident of returning safely from this trial, as every trial was filled with blood and slaughter, with an extremely high elimination rate. However, in the martial arts, if you don't advance, you retreat. One must possess the courageous and diligent mindset of a strong warrior, daring to challenge, in order to continuously break through and reach the pinnacle of martial arts. Despite knowing the dangers, none of them gave up. Su Poman returned to his residence and leisurely walked to the main hall. After changing into loose, comfortable clothes, he grabbed a book from the bookshelf and lay down on a bench in the center of the martial arts arena. It was a file of past trials, detailing the circumstances and tasks of each one. Su Poman perused it, feeling a chill in his heart at the near 50% elimination rate. If nothing unexpected happens, will half of these Qinglong Hall disciples really have to die before we can complete the mission? Su Poman's face darkened. In his eyes, those were all lives, lost in vain in the trials. What a shame. However, the giant whale gang's trial system had its advantages. Every disciple trained by the Qinglong Hall was a daring, reckless warrior, earning them a considerable reputation in the martial arts world. The Qinglong Hall was the sharpest sword in the hands of the giant whale gang's rulers. Only by constant polishing could it ensure its success every time it was unsheathed. The specific mission of this time will only be revealed upon arrival at the Northwest Branch. However, Su Poman speculates that this mission will be different from previous ones. Previous trials may have involved clearing out predatory beast caves, hunting down outlaws, major bandits, or even dealing with ghostly matters, but this time, it is most likely related to the Qinglong Hall. The Northwest Branch, located in the vast Gobi Desert on the border of Tailiao Prefecture, borders the Qinglong Hall's territory. Its mission is to mine rare mineral deposits, the ownership of which has long been disputed. The emergence of the black gold mine in recent years has led to a major dispute over ownership. Both sides have engaged in several battles over this mine, resulting in hundreds of casualties and a situation that is spiraling out of control. The dispatch of the Azure Dragon Hall to the Northwest Branch at such a sensitive time clearly signals a serious conflict, and bloodshed is inevitable. According to Long Keiji, a large portion of the black gold mine lies within Tailiao Prefecture, but the Qinglong Hall intends to seize it all. Black gold is an extremely precious metal. After refinement, it can be used to forge powerful weapons. A single dagger forged from pure black gold can fetch over 10,000 gold coins on the black market. During the forging process, simply adding a tiny amount of pure black gold to ordinary weapons can greatly enhance their toughness and sharpness. Therefore, the value of this black gold mine is immense, and even the Qinglong Hall, with its millennia-old heritage, is unwilling to part with this precious piece of gold. Su Poman slowly flipped through the case files in his hands, while Kair and Ruzu gently fanned themselves behind him. The two women, basking in the sun, were sweating profusely, their faces flushed. Kair, you and Ruzu should start practicing martial arts when you have time. I've placed some exercises suitable for you in my room. Go get them. No need to fend me here, I'm not hot. Practice martial arts. Kair's beautiful eyes were startled for a moment, then a look of ecstasy spread across her face. She pressed, Master, are you serious? Can Ruzu and I really practice martial arts? Ruzu also looked at Su Poman with some surprise and excitement. Of course it's true. From now on, if I don't call you during the day, you will practice in your room. If you don't understand, you can ask Kang Twing and the others. Master, you are so kind. I kneel down to thank you for your kindness. Hey, get up quickly. You two should practice hard. Yes, Master, the two maids nodded earnestly. Then, Kair and Ruzu left with some joy. For them, practicing martial arts was something they had never dared to dream of. They had never expected that it would come true today. Their own master actually allowed them to practice martial arts. What a huge surprise. Kair smiled at Ruzu and said, Young master is so good to us. Ruzu, we have to work hard to practice martial arts, so that if young master goes to that dangerous place in the future, he won't have to be distracted to take care of us. Ruzu nodded heavily and asked impatiently, Sister Kair, shall we go get the martial arts now? I heard that some martial arts can make people younger and even keep their youthful appearance. You little girl, you are so impatient. Sooner or later, I will strip you naked and throw you on young master's bed so that he can teach you a lesson. Kair gently pushed Ruzu's forehead with her finger and joked. Ruzu blushed. Sister Kair, you're so annoying. Even if you want to throw me into the young master's bed, you have to let me practice martial arts first. Who could possibly withstand such a powerful body like the young master? Ruzu stuck out her tongue, recalling the time when Su Poman had practiced martial arts. Even a real sword or spear couldn't break her own young master's flesh. That terrifying defensive power was unforgettable and lingering in her mind. Little girl, you actually want the young master to punish you? Are you training so hard just to get into the young master's bed as soon as possible? HMPH, Sister Kair, if you tease me again, Ruzu will ignore you. Haha, enough of that. Someone's coming over there. Let's go to the young master's room to get the skills. Okay, Su Poman basked in the sun, boredly flipping through the files in his hand. The contents were so disorganized that he felt a little depressed. After lunch, Su Poman was about to continue reading when he suddenly heard a bell ringing from the main peak. Did an elder pass away? Su Poman blinked, stood up and looked towards the main peak. With a blessing of supervision, his sight easily passed through many obstacles and saw a group of disciples on the main peak mourning. Life and death are unpredictable. Even warriors cannot escape the consequences of birth, old age, sickness and death. Only by cultivating immortality can one have the opportunity to achieve immortality. Su Poman sighed slightly. With the help of Kair and the other two girls, he changed into the purple-black elder's uniform. As one of the elders of the giant whale gang, he was not out on business at the moment, so according to etiquette, he had to go and pay his respects. Su Poman walked out of the Qianlong Hall. Du Changjiang had already prepared incense and tributes for him. The two went down the mountain together and then walked towards Lingang Peak. Along the way, many disciples saluted them and they also met other elders. However, because the matter was too solemn, everyone did not talk too much. The first update was criticized, the second update was not praised. Woo woo woo, I am too miserable. Don't worry, the Immortal Cultivator will appear in a dozen chapters, it won't collapse. In addition, I decided to add more chapters as long as there are 5 monthly tickets every day. Fellow Daoists with tickets, please vote quickly. Chapter 45 Reign. Elder K is 172 years old this year, having lived far longer than many others. With a large family and numerous children and grandchildren, he's truly blessed. Alice, Wei Wuji sighed as he walked beside Su Poman. Wei Wuji's words brought back memories of the gaunt old man in the hall that day. He often kept his eyes closed, looking incredibly old. He sat silently in his chair, rarely speaking, only opening his eyes to savor a few sips of wine before closing them again with a look of nostalgia. Su Poman had noticed the quiet Elder K back then, feeling a sense of lifelessness about him. He hadn't expected him to pass away just 2 days later. Life and death are so unpredictable, Su Poman sighed, his resolve to cultivate further. Wei Wuji nodded, saying nothing more. and the group slowly climbed up the mountain. In a mountaintop courtyard, the descendants of Elder K, along with his disciples and students, were all dressed in plain white. Most were silent, expressions of grief on their faces. A dozen or so mourned in front, and the mourning tent had already been set up inside. Occasionally, a gust of evening breeze would blow aside the curtains of the tent, revealing the mourners in sight and wafting the distinct aroma of incense, candles, and paper money. As everyone arrived, they placed their offerings on the table at the entrance before entering the courtyard. Through the tent, Su Poman spotted a familiar figure, the red-dressed woman, second in rank among the 12 azure dragons. Kay Yaner, also dressed in mourning clothes, knelt in the tent, silently weeping over the coffin. As the saying goes, mourning clothes make you look beautiful, and this is true. Kay Yaner, dressed in white, lost her usual fiery allure, now exuding a pure, endearing fragility that stood out from the crowd. Everyone came forward one by one to offer their condolences, and the family members knelt and kowtowed in gratitude. After Su Poman finished his condolences, he stood in the courtyard for a moment before leaving with Wei Wuji. On the way down the mountain, Wei Wuji said, "Elder Su, the leader has arranged for Elder Sun and I to accompany you to the northwest branch. We'll be waiting for you and the disciples of the Azure Dragon Hall at the foot of Kyonho Peak." "Okay, Elder Wei, see you then," Su Poman said with a faint smile. Wei Wuji nodded slightly and then took another path back to the gardens of the outer city. Su Poman also returned to the Su mansion. He had intended to stay on a bench and read, but the sky suddenly changed in the afternoon. The sun was obscured by dark clouds, and a light drizzle began to fall. He had to return to his room to read. "I hate cloudy days," Su Poman muttered disapprovingly, looking out the window at the increasingly heavy rain, then lowered his head to return to the files. Each trial experience was like a novel, and Su Poman read with gusto. He couldn't help but feel a little uneasy when he read the descriptions of strange events. So ghosts exist in this world. Su Poman witnessed a heavy casualty during one trial due to a strange incident involving a red fox beast that had cultivated into a spirit. Its speed was as swift as that of a second-rank warrior, capable of ripping a person apart with a single pass. The elder leading the team had an arm torn off. The leading elder acted decisively, unleashing poisonous smoke. And the team finally escaped the fox's maw after losing dozens of lives. While warriors possess a masculine energy and blood that ordinary ghosts and monsters cannot approach, their essence and blood are considered a highly desirable food. Devouring a warrior alive is like a tonic, significantly boosting their cultivation progress. The fox, a beast with a faint demonic aura, was not far from true demonization. This allowed it to attack warriors without fear of masculine energy and blood. Such incidents hadn't occurred often in the hundreds of years since the giant whale gang was founded. Ordinary ghosts and mountain monsters were no match for warriors. A surge of energy often sent those spirits fleeing. Only a select few could cultivate demonic energy and possess a ghostly form. Outside, the rain intensified. Even without a super hearing activated, Su Poman could faintly hear the faint sound of weeping emanating from Lingine Peak. This awful weather, even a funeral would be a hassle. Su Poman's mood worsened. He simply climbed into bed, closed his eyes, and drifted off to sleep, enchanted by the dim light and humid air. 3 days later, in the early morning hours, Kyongho Peak was ablaze with lights. Qinglong Hall disciples were packing their bags, while horse-drawn carriages hauled supplies at the foot of the mountain. Even before daybreak, the Qinglong Hall disciples had already assembled at the training grounds. At dawn, Su Poman slung a longsword across his back, a bundle slung from the end of its scabbard. His demeanor was casual and unrestrained, unlike that of a revered elder, but rather a novice. He strolled out of the Su mansion's gates and headed towards the training grounds of Kyonho Peak. From afar, Su Poman could see figures swarming on the grounds. The disciples of the Qinglong Hall silently awaited him. "Greetings, Master," deafening shouts echoed across Kyonho Peak, and the servants in the courtyards couldn't help but come out to watch. Su Poman glanced at the Qinglong Hall procession and knew what was happening. He announced loudly, "Yes, everyone's here. Let's go down the mountain." "Yes, Master." Following closely behind Su Poman, the group descended the steep stone steps in a mighty procession to the foot of the mountain. There, parked were a series of carriages carrying passengers and supplies. Leading the group was a tall, white-bearded elder. He stood at the intersection at the foot of the mountain, his hands behind his back, looking up at Su Poman descending. "Elder Su, you're quite early," Sundinglu said with a grin. Su Poman glanced closely, recognizing the elder and smilingly replied, "Elder son, you're early too. Elder Wei will be here shortly. Let's go to the carriages first. We'll take care of these disciples." Sundinglu extended his hand, resting it on Su Poman's back, and greeted him warmly. In front stood 3 massive carriages, each pulled by 4 black-scaled horses. Their exteriors were lavishly decorated, with small windows on either side. They appeared spacious enough to accommodate 7 or 8 adult men. The carriages were constructed from a dark gray wood that looked incredibly tough. "Elder Su, this middle carriage is yours. We'll be traveling at full speed, so it might be a bit bumpy. When Elder Wei arrives, we'll be off," Sundinglu said with a smile, gesturing to the middle carriage. Su Poman nodded, then casually asked, "Elder son, do you know the details of this trial mission?" Sundinglu shook his head, his expression grave. He said in a deep voice, "This trial mission is most likely related to the Kangling Hall, but we'll have to wait until we reach the northwest branch. The leader will send a pigeon to let us know the specifics. I suspect it's related to the fight for the Black Gold Mine." Chapter 46, Talia Ozhao. As they were talking, Wei Wuji approached from a distance with 2 followers, a bottle of wine tucked under his arm. He laughed heartily and said, "Elder Su, elder son, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. Let's get going. I've brought a bottle of good wine. Come have a drink in my carriage first." The 3 of them got into Wei Wuji's carriage at the front and chatted and drank. Even though the carriage was constantly bumping due to the high speed, the 3 of them were strong enough not to spill a drop of the wine. After drinking, the 3 of them chatted for a while before Su Poman and Sundinglu each returned to their own carriage. The carriage was well furnished, with not only tables and chairs, but also a large bed at the back. After leaving the city, the convoy accelerated again, rushing along the official road towards the northwest, towards Liaozhou. The giant whale gang's convoy roamed the 3 states with near impunity, no one daring to stop them. As a result, their journey along the official roads was smooth, and they stopped for a rest at noon. The accompanying cook set to work preparing meals, while the grooms took the opportunity to feed the black-scale horses, restoring their strength for the journey. Smoke rose from the kitchen as a large, generous plate of food, meticulously prepared by the chef, was delivered to Su Poman's room. Su Poman had plenty left over after finishing his meal, so he dismounted, carrying his plate and distributing his food along the way to the Kangling Hall disciples dining along the roadside. Those who received food were flattered. In this world, few superiors would do such a thing. Unbeknownst to them, Su Poman had simply lost his appetite during the day and didn't want to waste food, so he shared the remaining food. "Hallmaster Su actually gave me a piece of the exotic beast meat on his plate. It's the most delicious part of the exotic beast. Eating it can generate a large amount of qi and blood. I'm so lucky to be treated so well by the Hallmaster. I must follow the Hallmaster well. How ridiculous that I didn't obey the Hallmaster before." Sigh. "I'm so sorry, the Hallmaster is so considerate to his subordinates and so powerful. If I were a woman, I would definitely do everything in my power to marry Hallmaster Su. Tisk, 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 I wonder who would be so lucky. If only Hallmaster Su wasn't so strict about gender." Several ordinary Kangling Hall disciples who were given food felt a surge of emotion, the kind of emotion that only men can feel. Some of them had red eyes as they ate, as if stones had been stuck in their eyes. This scene fell on the eyes of the other disciples who hadn't been given food. They had a new understanding of Hallmaster Su in front of them, and their hearts were somewhat complicated. Su Poman felt perfectly at ease in the sun, so he asked a steward for a horse and planned to continue his journey. While the carriage was comfortable, the lack of sunlight made him feel uncomfortable and suffocated. He rode alongside the caravan, enjoying the sunlight, feeling incredibly relaxed. As the caravan moved further away from Dangfang City, the bustling scene faded, and the surrounding scenery opened up, with rolling mountain roads and winding green waters. The roadside forests teemed with a variety of animals, strange red-haired birds with long bills, poison dart frogs crowned with lush green leaves, black bears with scaly backs, and mountain deer with conical horns. Su Poman's supervision allowed him to spot everything, even the most camouflaged creatures. The variety of animals here far exceeded anything he had seen on Animal World, a truly eye-opening experience. Su Poman admired the scenery and watched the various exotic animals, feeling no boredom. Time flew by, and soon, it was evening. The caravan stopped before a stone bridge. The grooms disembarked to feed the horses, while the cooks began to cook. The curling smoke appeared long and straight in the setting sun. Su Poman then boarded the carriage and lit the oil lamp. Suddenly, the room was filled with a faint pine scent, mixed with a touch of floral fragrance. This oil lamp was superior to the ordinary household lamps. Not only was it brighter, but it was also blended with a unique fragrance that filled the room with fragrance, masking any odors. The next few days were uneventful, with no accidents along the way. In each city the caravan arrived at, they were warmly welcomed by the locals, allowed to rest, and replenish their supplies. As the caravan entered the territory of Tailao Prefecture, the surrounding landscape gradually became desolate. The dense jungle disappeared, leaving only low shrubs. After another half-day's journey, even the shrubs disappeared. Only a few withered yellow weeds could be seen at intervals, and beyond them, a vast expanse of desert. Tailao Prefecture had very few cities, and most of the area was a barren, uninhabited landscape. Small towns or camps existed only where there were water sources. The inhabitant skin was mostly reddish, evidently from the scorching sun. Tailao Prefecture's climate was completely different from Xianhe Prefecture, home to Dengfang Prefecture. The air here was extremely dry, with no rain year-round. The people relied on the basins and lakes formed by the unique terrain for survival. The scorching sun made the journey unbearable. Some experienced disciples prepared large umbrellas in advance, while Su Poman thoroughly enjoyed the weather. The intense sunlight also rapidly strengthened his black iron body. Although the weather was unbearable, his physique had long since reached the point of being impervious to cold or heat. He wasn't the only one. Even the ordinary disciples of the Azure Dragon Hall could easily use their internal energy to relieve the heat. However, over time, this energy would be depleted, which was why they resorted to using large umbrellas to avoid the heat. Although everyone was confused by Su Poman's actions, after what happened on the training grounds, no one could fathom his temper, so no one dared to question him. Although their pace was slower than before, they still arrived at the northwest branch on the appointed date. Amidst the vast Gobi Desert and the raging sandstorm, a black stone city stood at the foot of the rolling mountains. Beside the city lay a large lake, bringing a touch of coolness to the wind. The mountains behind the city were high, crouching over the vast Gobi Desert like a giant beast. From a distance, only a black line could be seen, only when approaching could its true form be seen. The Gobi Desert in Tailao Prefecture is home to numerous mountain ranges and basins. The mountain range where the giant whale gang's northwest branch is located is called the Kilong Mountain Range. Its rolling ridges resemble a black, coiled dragon, hence the name. The group could see the Kilong Mountains from a distance, but it took 2 days of walking to reach their foothills and see Blackstone City, home to the northwest branch. Keeping my word, I've reached my 5-monthly ticket quota today, so I'll update. Chapter 47 Bioforce Field. The Northwest Branch has been established for over a century. Its current leader is Shuang Changgang, a late-stage 5th-grade warrior who has honed his skills in the Northwest for many years. His strength is so immense that perhaps only Kong Qi could remain undefeated against him in the 12 hours of Azure Dragon. Upon seeing the incoming convoy from the giant whale gang's headquarters, the Blackstone City guards notified Shuang Changgang, who then led the branch's deacons and disciples to the gate to greet them. Shuang Changgang, a towering figure with a muscular build and a strikingly imposing beard, stood at the head of the group, clad in dark red armor, surveying the convoy. A gust of wind and sand blew by, and he subconsciously narrowed his eyes. A hint of joy crossed his rough features. He clapped his hands and said, "The headquarters has indeed sent an elder to take charge. Now we don't have to worry about those little brats from the Kangling Hall." "Master Shuang, how did you know the elders were coming?" a trusted deacon in red asked curiously. Shuang Changgang grinned and explained, "See that carriage up ahead? Only elders can ride in carriages of this caliber." As the convoy drew closer, Shuang Changgang noticed the 2 carriages trailing behind. His face grew serious, a hint of hesitation in his eyes. "Captain, look, there are 2 more luxurious carriages behind us. It looks like the headquarters has sent 3 elders this time." "That's fantastic," the red-robed deacon exclaimed with delight. Shuang Changgang, however, frowned, sensing something unusual. If it were just a simple conflict, sending 2 captain-level experts would be enough. A more intense conflict would only involve 1 elder, ultimately leading to negotiations between the 2 elders, and the matter would be resolved. But this time, The headquarters had actually sent 3 elders. Shuang Qinggang was no rookie. He had been in the martial arts world for decades and possessed a keen political sense. He sensed that this move by the headquarters was unusual, and that something major might be about to happen. If a major move were to occur, it would mean a conflict of even greater magnitude. Even a 5th-rank warrior like him would be in danger, his life in jeopardy. He glanced at his delighted subordinates and shook his head. What a bunch of idiots. They're completely clueless. However, he quickly buried his worries, forced a smile, and bowed respectfully before the front. He then shouted, "Shuang Qinggang, the leader of the Northwest Branch, greets the 3 elders." "Greetings, elders." The deacons and disciples behind him followed suit, bowing respectfully. Wei Wuji and Sun Dinglu emerged from the carriage one after another. They first glanced toward Blackstone City in the distance, then nodded to the salutations. Wei Wuji seemed to have a thought. He turned and enthusiastically greeted Su Poman, who was riding up behind him. "Elder Su, we've arrived at the Northwest Branch. Come join us as we enter the city." Su Poman spurred his horse forward a few paces, slapped his horse's back, and leaped into the air. With his arms outstretched, he landed lightly in a T-shape. Pivoting on his toes, he faced the Blackstone City entourage. His series of movements was so graceful that the disciples of the Azure Dragon Hall cheered in delight. Su Poman had seen this entrance move in a Blue Star costume drama before, and finding it impressive, he instinctively used it. Surprisingly effective. Yin Wanchao stood in the crowd, his eyes blazing with passion, thinking, "I never knew there was a way to steal the show like this. That's such a cool move." Elder Su is truly a role model for our generation. His skills at picking up girls are truly exceptional. Shuang Qinggang looked a bit surprised. "Elder Wei, who is this?" "Haha, Captain Shuang, you've been away for so many years, you're not very well informed. Elder Su is a new elder joining our giant whale gang. Furthermore, he's also the head of the Azure Dragon Hall. Look, those disciples following behind are all from the Azure Dragon Hall." Wei Wuji laughed heartily. "Hiss," Shuang Qinggang gasped, first examining Su Poman and bowing. Then, looking back, he saw, as expected, the disciples clad in Azure Dragon brocade robes. He was deeply shocked. The magnitude of the headquarters move this time was far greater than he had imagined. Even the Azure Dragon Hall had been dispatched. Shuang Qinggang struggled to contain his uneasiness and said slowly, "Elders, you must be exhausted from the journey. I have already hosted a banquet in the city to welcome you. Please follow me into the city." Wei Wuji nodded slightly, and the 3 of them walked forward side by side. The disciples from Blackstone City made way for them, most of them lowering their heads, not daring to look around. Shuang Qinggang followed behind, followed by the disciples from the Azure Dragon Hall. Seeing the elders ahead on foot, they also dismounted and entered the city. 2 lines of disciples dressed in giant whale gang uniforms stood on either side of the road, spears in hand, blocking the Blackstone City residents from entering. The streets were less bustling than they had expected, perhaps because the evil aura emanating from the Northwest Branch disciples had deterred the residents from making any noise under the silent signs. As Su Poman walked, he surveyed the city's architecture. The houses were low, earthen huts with thick walls and small windows, a crude, primitive style. The buildings began to rise in height as he moved toward the city center. By the time he reached the branch hut, he was surrounded by mansions with high walls and large courtyards, a distinctly northwestern style. The walls were constructed from a mixture of local red clay and stone. The interiors were not the wooden structures prevalent in Dangfang Prefecture, but rather thick walls and small windows. After the group entered the branch hut, a dedicated deacon quickly arrived to help arrange accommodations. The 3 elders and the 12 Azure Dragons sat down to their tables in the hall, while the other Azure Dragon Hall disciples were divided into a large courtyard for a feast. A variety of dishes were quickly served, steaming hot, making the restless disciples, who had been on the road for so long, salivate. Looking south into the main hall, at the highest seat sat Su Poman, Wei Wuji, and Sun Dinglu. Below them were Shuang Qinggang, Kong Qi, and the 12 Azure Dragons, each seated according to their respective positions. Dozens of maids stood on either side, ready to refill wine and tea with wine jugs. They each had a separate table, and piles of exotic beast meat and precious ingredients were brought up, filling the hall with the aroma of delicious delicacies. As Su Poman ate, he felt the changes in his body. Although he had stopped cultivating his internal energy, His constitution had been continuously strengthened by the sunlight. That very day, at noon, a strange transformation suddenly occurred within him, creating something akin to a biological force field. However, due to the crowded streets, he could only grope around in the dark. He discovered that this force field was like a strange domain, invisible and intangible, covering an inch or so above the skin. It possessed the same defensive power as Su Poman's own body, acting like a shield to withstand external damage while also protecting clothing and personal gear from being destroyed by the aftermath of powerful attacks. This directly avoided the dilemma of being naked after a fierce battle. Furthermore, this biological force field could be controlled to spread outward, thus protecting items in hand and possessing impressive defensive capabilities. Chapter 48 Men in Black. Su Poman drank a glass of wine, constantly experiencing this newfound ability, repeatedly manipulating this magical field-like power, slowly becoming familiar with it. Currently, Su Poman's bio-force field only covers an inch of his body surface, but he believes that as his body continues to strengthen, the range of this bio-force field will continue to expand. The atmosphere in the room grew increasingly lively. Not only did the other two elders toast him continuously, but even the branch leader Shuang Changgang, Kongqi, and others came forward to toast. Su Poman, without any airs, clinked glasses and drank them one by one. After enjoying some more delicious food, he pretended to be slightly tipsy and left early. Returning to his residence, Su Poman changed into comfortable clothes and began to experiment with a new bio-force field in his room. He gently picked up a wolf hair brush, and with a thought, the bio-force field instantly enveloped it. Then, he poked the brush tip against a table. Swish, a hole suddenly appeared in the tabletop, and sawdust rained down on the ground. Su Poman leaned his head against the tabletop, looking closer. He saw that the soft bristles of the wolf hairbrush had pierced through it, revealing the pile of sawdust beneath. So, can even the petals and leaves I pick hurt people? Su Poman muttered to himself. He suddenly swung the brush forward, wielding only the strength of a 9th-grade warrior. The brush flew out in a flash of light, slamming heavily into the wall. Pah! The jade shaft shattered, and shards of jade and wolf hair rained down from the wall. A jade-handled wolf hairbrush worth several thousand gold was destroyed. It seems this bio-force field can't leave the body. Once it leaves the body, it loses its effectiveness. This force field is probably why Superman's clothes don't get damaged even when he's pelted with bullets in the movies, Su Poman muttered to himself. Suddenly, his ears twitched, and he looked up at the ceiling. Someone actually dared to visit the giant whale gang branch at night? I wonder if they're from the Kanglang Hall. Su Poman, sensing something was amiss, used his supervision to penetrate the rooftops and saw a stranger in night clothes, using his light-lifting skills to leap towards the Nanwang Hall. Li Xianlang moved like a ghost across the rooftops of the buildings. The moon was dark and the wind was strong. Combined with his pitch-black night clothes and impressive light-lifting skills, the patrolling disciples had no way of spotting this martial arts master, a late 5th-grade master. Today, the Kanglang Hall's spies in Blackstone City received word that members of the giant whale gang's headquarters were arriving in Blackstone City, with a convoy of hundreds of people. Upon hearing this, Li Xianlang was eager to gather information and then returned to contact the Kanglang Hall headquarters to relay the details of the giant whale gang's reinforcements so they could quickly respond. In this extremely urgent situation, if they missed the perfect opportunity and allowed the giant whale gang's reinforcements to coordinate with a branch to complete their deployment at the Black Gold Mine, the Kanglang Hall would be in a difficult position in the subsequent struggle for control of the Black Gold Mine. As the head of the Northwest Branch Hall, he would also face severe punishment from the main hall. Therefore, he had to take the enormous risk of traveling to Blackstone City to investigate. Dark clouds obscured most of the moonlight. In the dim light, Li Xianlan quietly peeled back a glazed tile from the main hall and cautiously peered down. Damn, I'm so stupid. Li Xianlang was speechless. He looked down and was shocked to discover that beneath the glazed tiles was a thick roof, completely unlike the houses in the Central Plains, where one could see into the rooms below. Su Poman, who had quietly followed behind, saw this scene and was amused. He thought to himself, this guy is also a joke. He must have read too many martial arts biographies and been addicted. This world also has novels, circulated in bookstores in the form of biographies. Most of them record the life stories of powerful warriors. Because most of them are embellished, the plots are quite interesting, attracting many ordinary people who cannot practice martial arts. Li Xianlang was stunned for a moment, thinking about a countermeasure. The south viewing hall of the northwest branch was patrolled by guards, and the windows were very small and sealed at night. If he wanted to obtain intelligence, he had to take the risk of knocking out a guard, then change clothes and sneak into the hall through a side door. He took a deep breath, activated his Qingguang, and transformed into a dark shadow, gently descending from the hall. With lightning speed, he knocked out a guard at the end of the patrol and dragged him to a dark corner. After the rustling sound of someone getting dressed, a middle-aged man in a tight-fitting suit emerged from the corner. He looked hesitant, for the suit didn't fit him at all. It was too small, and anyone could tell it wasn't his. Wearing it like that would easily expose him. Just as he was busy adjusting his clothes, puff, ha ha ha, I just can't help it, it's hilarious. The laughter was so sudden it startled Li Xianlang, and his body twitched with the laughter. Oh no! I've been discovered. Li Xianlang turned his head and looked behind him to see a handsome young man in white pointing at him and laughing. Su Poman had been on the verge of laughing since he'd watched him get dressed, but he'd tried to suppress it. But when he saw this stranger in the tights, prying his clothes out from between his buttocks and wiggling his hips, his defenses snapped, and he couldn't help but burst out laughing. You dare ruin my plans, you bastard? Die! Li Xianlang, a ruthless warrior with years of experience in the Northwest, knew his plan was exposed, and he was determined to kill the scoundrel who had dared to mock him before anyone else could arrive. Li Xianlang's right arm instantly expanded, his already tight sleeves ripping apart. A pair of iron fists charged forward with a gust of wind and the roar of a tiger, the air around him compressing with a resounding crack. This was the Tiger Roar Fist, a low-grade Earth-level martial art. It all happened in a flash, from Su Poman's laughter to Li Xianlang's brazen attack, a matter of seconds. Though the crowd within the hall heard the noise, they were still unable to react. Su Poman didn't dodge, allowing the punch to crash into his chest. His bio-force field formed a transparent shield around his skin. Bang! A muffled sound echoed, and transparent ripples appeared on Su Poman's chest. The force of the punch was completely absorbed, and he suffered no harm at all. The punch didn't even touch his clothes, being blocked an inch by the biological force field. He was nailed to the spot like a 1,000-year-old pine tree, motionless. Although I have less than 5 monthly tickets today, many fellow Daoists have donated, so without further ado, I'll update. Thanks to Yunshin Buzichu Jinling, Book Friend 160,313,111,641,749, Kai Fang, Only Water for Fish, Lian Bing, Hangu, A Pot of Clear Wine and the Water, Monster Catcher Captain, First King, Book Friend 20190318144247777, Book Friend 20200501224512975, Book Friend 20180223142300009, Ordinary People, Book Friend 20181226051041915, Lanchin Yu Meng, Book Friend 20210630181037323, Book Friend 20181023202037340 and other book friends for their rewards. Thank you to all the friends who voted for the monthly recommendation votes. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Catching a Thief. Li Xianlang's eyes widened. The martial arts he'd painstakingly cultivated for years couldn't even shred the opponent's clothing. Instead, the recoil caused a slight pain in his arm. This was truly horrifying. Who's that? Enemy attack, there's an assassin. Come and capture him. Light patrol disciples heard the commotion and quickly rushed over. Whistles and shouts echoed from all around. Something's happening outside, a Qinglong Hall disciple asked in surprise. The drunken crowd in the hall, upon hearing the commotion outside, all stood up and simultaneously began to activate their internal energy, refining the alcohol in their bodies. At this critical moment, being intoxicated could lead to significant consequences. Everyone silently activated their energy, and soon, a large, alcohol-scented white mist filled the air above the hall. Two elders, please take a seat. I'll go out and take a look. Shang Qinggang's face darkened. This matter concerned his duties. Someone had intruded into the branch, causing him to lose face in front of the elders and leaving him feeling humiliated. He had previously boasted that Blackstone City was completely under the control of the branch, run like an ironclad operation, only to be slapped in the face so quickly. After clearing the stench of alcohol, he angrily grabbed the greatsword beside the table and rushed out of the hall. Conky said nothing, silently drawing his sword and following him through the hall gates. The other Qinglong Hall disciples, after finishing their alcohol refusal, followed him out. As Shang Qinggang was about to leave, someone arrived to report. He waved them off and, using his light kung fu, rushed to the crowd. Upon his arrival, he was surprised to find the situation already under control by the new elder. He saw many patrolling disciples from the branch surrounded. Standing in the center was Su Poman, dressed in white. At his feet lay a middle-aged man in a tight-fitting suit, stretched so tight that it threatened to rip, a truly comical sight. Shang Qinggang took a look and a look of disgust emerged on his face. He thought that the man's attire was really an eye-catching thing. He turned his head and respectfully saluted Su Poman and said, "Elder Su, it was you who caught this thief. I am really ashamed. It was my fault for failing in my duty. I let an outsider break into such a deep place in the branch without us noticing. I will definitely punish the disciples who are in charge of patrol tonight. This man is a martial artist of the 5th level of martial arts. He has extraordinary lightning skills. It is normal that those disciples could not find him. There is no need to blame them." Su Poman waved his hand and explained. "Oh? A 5th-rank warrior." Shang Qinggang walked over in surprise, and flicked the man's head with his foot, revealing the face of a middle-aged man with a wretched appearance. He exclaimed, "It's actually him, Li Xianlang, the head of the northwest branch of Kangling Palace. He's indeed a Kangling Palace man." Su Poman nodded slightly and said, "In this northwest, I'm afraid there's no other force that dares to go against the giant whale gang. Elder Su, you've caught a big fish this time. That's great. Now Kangling Palace will probably compromise on the black gold mine." The head of the branch broke into the giant whale gang branch at night and was caught. If this matter gets out, Kangling Palace will be embarrassed. Ha! Shang Qinggang picked up the unconscious Li Xianlang with one hand, looked at him carefully, and spat secretly. "The attire of this headmaster Li is really too weird. It's simply unbearable to look at." Shang Qinggang bound his hands and feet with dragon ropes, then carried him back to the main hall. The patrolling disciples dispersed, and the Qinglong Hall disciples who had emerged from the courtyard to watch the excitement also left at Su Poman's signal. Looking south into the main hall, Wei Wuji frowned at Li Xianlang, who was tied up like a dumpling under the dais, and couldn't help but ask, "Is this the behavior of the Kangling Hall's branch leader?" Ha! "I think the clothes he's wearing belong to one of our branch disciples, but they don't fit him well. He must be trying to gather intelligence." Someone from the Kangling Hall, Sun Dinglu said with a smile, stroking his beard, a hint of disdain for the Kangling Hall in his words. "Elder Su has done a great deed this time, capturing a low-ranking member of the Kangling Hall. If we negotiate later, we'll have the initiative. I'll personally write a letter to the gang leader claiming credit for Elder Su," Wei Wuji said with a smile, his gaze toward Su Poman filled with admiration, like the look an elder gives his distinguished junior. Then, as if remembering something, he turned to look at his grandson, Yin Wanshao, who was leaning against a pillar, picking his teeth. His brow furrowed, and he grabbed the chopstick rest on the table and threw it at him, shouting, "You have no manners to stand or sit. How can you behave like that? Stand still, Yin Wanshao." The chopstick rest struck Yin Wanshao, and he didn't even dare to dodge. He quickly stood straight, his head bowed. He had never imagined that standing in the corner could bring him trouble. The other Qinglong Hall disciples all wore gloating grins, accustomed to this. Elder Wei had dealt with Yin Wanshao numerous times in public at Kaianho Peak, but unfortunately, Yin Wanshao was too lazy to remember punishment. He was always careless, not fully focused on cultivation, constantly obsessed with picking up girls and showing off. He even used the Qinglong Hall's name to pay for free sex at brothels, causing Elder Wei immense worry. If this guy hadn't been truly gifted, Wei Wuji would have broken his legs long ago. Su Poman, observing this, smiled and shook his head, saying languidly, "Elder Wei, elder son, I'll leave the interrogation of this man to you. I'm going to go back and rest. Just let me know when the gang leader arrives with a letter." "All right, Elder Su, go and rest. We'll take care of the rest," Sun Dinglu said with a smile. Su Poman bowed to the two men and then gracefully turned and left. Wei Wuji gave a helpless smile and said to Sun Dinglu, "This elder Su is truly unsociable. He spends every day secluded in his courtyard cultivating. He seems to have no desire for power or anything like that. He hardly seems like a vibrant young man, with such a deep obsession with martial arts. It's no wonder he's achieved such success in the art of martial arts. Ordinary people his age wouldn't be so uninterested. They'd probably have long been mesmerized by the outside world or obsessed with power and wealth. Perhaps only someone with his mindset could possibly take that step." Sun Dinglu spoke slowly, his gaze deep as he gazed toward the hall entrance. This was as much a response to Wei Wuji as it was to himself. Wei Wuji nodded thoughtfully, then gestured down below, commanding, "Get a basin of water and wake him." Yes, a basin of cold water poured down, and Li Xianling awoke, his eyes dazed and confused, before his expression faded to despair. "It's over, I've changed jobs and officially started work today. Please forgive the delay in my response during the day. Thanks to Cap, Final Fantasy, and Kinquin CV for their rewards." Chapter 50 Blood Cave. For 3 days straight, Su Poman spent his time in his own courtyard, practicing the water covering technique during the day and swordsmanship at night. His martial arts cultivation had already reached a late 7th rank, and he estimated that with another 10 days of dedicated practice, he would be able to break through and reach the 6th rank. However, a letter from Long Keiji interrupted his training plans. Signed from my brother Poman, the letter not only explained the King Long Hall's trial mission, but also revealed some of the secrets of the Black Gold Mine and entrusted him with a very special task. Successful completion of this task would ensure the giant whale gang's control of the Blood God Orchid within the Black Gold Mine. The letter explained that a few years ago, strange phenomena had occurred within the natural caverns deep within the Black Gold Mine, with miners frequently disappearing. Consequently, a small team of warriors was dispatched to investigate. Initially, the warriors found nothing unusual, only a few red scales. After further exploration, they unexpectedly discovered a blood cavern nestled within a crevice in the rock wall at the far end of the tunnel. Within the cavern, a small island sprouted from its center, housing 3 exotic flowers known as the Blood God Orchid. The Blood God Orchid was renowned for its renown and was a coveted elixir for warriors. It had appeared twice in history. It was rumored that if a warrior could ingest it, their body would rapidly develop a vast amount of ki and blood comparable to that of a first-grade warrior, ultimately leading to smoother progress in their martial arts. This news somehow reached the Kangling Hall, and with such a sacred object in their grasp, they naturally sought to seize it. They ostensibly launched a raid on the Black Gold Mine, but in reality, their goal was to seize the Blood God Orchid within the Blood God Orchid. However, to prevent a sudden intervention from the other 3 sects, the leaders of both factions tacitly withdrew their true high-level forces. Within the Blood Rock Cave, thousands of red-scaled rock pythons guarded the Blood God Orchid. These gregarious creatures possess strength comparable to that of a 6th-rank martial artist. If they appeared in large groups, a 5th-rank martial artist would likely be helpless, and even a 4th-rank martial artist would require considerable effort to escape. If that were the case, the 2 major factions' strength alone would easily secure the Blood God Orchid. However, the warrior team observed that among the red-scaled rock pythons was a purple-scaled king python, comparable to a 4th-rank martial artist. In this situation, only slow and steady efforts would be necessary to eliminate the snakes and obtain the Blood God Orchid. Another crucial factor is that the Blood God Orchid within the Blood Rock Cavern is not yet mature, requiring some time to harvest. Ancient texts indicate that before the orchid reaches full maturity, it is extremely poisonous. Even the highly resistant red-scaled rock python would be fatally poisoned if ingested. Harvesting prematurely would only ruin this rare treasure. However, once the orchid reaches full maturity, its toxicity magically disappears, and it emits an alluring fragrance. Within 3 hours of fully blooming, it withers, a fleeting bloom. Only by sealing it with strong liquor can its medicinal properties be preserved. Therefore, for the 2 major sects, whoever can secure the Blood Rock Cavern will secure the Blood God Orchid. The conflict between the giant whale gang and the Kanglang Hall also revolves around this cavern. In Poo State history, there was a warrior known as the Blood Demon Boy. He accidentally ingested a Blood God Orchid while at the Grandmaster level. Within a few short years, he achieved the status of a Grandmaster of the 1st rank, leaving a formidable reputation in the martial arts world. Every warrior covets such a tempting item. Therefore, The day the Blood God Orchid matures marks the moment of all-out war between the two factions. At that moment, the masters of both sects will undoubtedly flock to seize the Blood God Orchid. Long KG has assigned Su Poman a special mission, to guard the Blood Rock Cave and prevent any Kang Lang Hall members from causing trouble before the Blood God Orchid matures. The Azure Dragon Hall Disciples' trial mission is to slay the red-scaled rock pythons within the Blood Rock Cave, clearing the area in advance. They will also remain stationed there until the Blood God Orchid matures to prevent any unforeseen consequences. The Blood God Orchid has 7 leaves, 5 of which have already unfolded. According to ancient records, the Blood God Orchid only unfolds 1 leaf every month, and only fully blooms when the last leaf is fully unfolded. With nearly 2 months until the Blood God Orchid fully matures, Su Poman will lead the Azure Dragon Hall disciples to the border of Tailao Prefecture during this time, while Elders Wei Wuji and Sun Dinglu will remain at the branch helm, ready to provide assistance. The next morning, Su Poman emerged from the mansion and summoned all the Qinglong Hall disciples. Led by a deacon under Shang Changgang, they set out for the black gold mine on the border of Tailao Prefecture, not far from the northwest branch, less than a day's journey away. The wind was exceptionally strong, mingling with sand and gravel, carrying parched air from the Gobi Desert. Su Poman and his companions galloped across the endless plains, heading north along the Kyrnglong Mountains. After a full day's journey, they saw buildings ahead, and a steady stream of minecarts pulled by short-legged horses passed by. They were now very close to the Black Gold Mine, a transfer station for the minecarts. Another half-day's journey brought them to a fortress over 10 feet high. Built against the mountainside, it encircled the entire Black Gold Mine, surrounded by steep cliffs, making it ideal for defense. Patrols were posted on the city walls and in the mountains and forests to prevent miners from escaping. A small number of these miners were recruited, while the vast majority were convicts purchased from the government for gold and silver. Volunteers were paid generously, but the convicts were not so lucky. Not only were they unpaid, but any laziness or inappropriate behavior would result in severe whippings from the overseers. The freshly mined ore would not be refined at the mine, but would be loaded onto trucks and transported to a workshop closer to the northwest branch for smelting, extracting the black gold from the ore normally. Only 2 squads of warriors were stationed here to defend it. However, due to the recent covetousness of the Kangling Hall, the Black Gold Mine had stepped up its defenses, deploying 7 squads of warriors to patrol the area. Yan Zishan, the Northwest Branch's deputy leader, also maintained a presence. Yan Zishan, nicknamed Devil Silverhand, was an early-stage 5th-rank expert, promoted to deputy helmsman due to his immense strength. He had received a letter from his sworn brother, forewarning him that a distinguished guest would be arriving today. He had already changed into formal attire and arrived at the gate to greet him. Yan Zishan narrowed his eyes and saw smoke and dust rising from the Gobi Desert in the distance, obscuring the sky. Hundreds of horses galloped towards them, led by a handsome young man in a white robe, sword strapped to his back. Following him was a stern-faced swordsman, a white sword dangling from his waist and wearing a jade crown. Beside the swordsman was a slender and beautiful woman in a red dress. Behind them emerged a group of disciples clad in blue dragon brocade robes. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.